What is up, team, and welcome back to another episode of the Technical Foul Podcast. You're joined by three of us today. Sanders is back. Welcome back, Sanders. But I'm one of your co-hosts, Jack Anderson. To my right is JP Pusilowski, who's currently trying to figure out why he's on Yahoo browser instead of Google Chrome, I'd imagine, is your go-to, JP.
Well, I'm on Google Chrome,
Okay.
but Google Chrome is taking me to Yahoo's search engine. So,
And then the aforementioned Sanders. Welcome back, Sanders. How are you doing today?
I'm so tired.
Yeah, fair.
Today is Thursday. I've had 4 sporting events in the last 3 days. Baseball Tuesday night, and that was a solid 7-hour event.
Okay, finish
3 hours.
the question I asked you.
And then baseball Wednesday night, and I was at baseball there for 6 hours, and then basketball for another 3. Which shout out the men's basketball team for getting that huge win over Auburn. So I started the week 3-0 with 3 events in those 2 days, and then tonight had a women's basketball game, and that was another 4 or 5 hours. Oh, and last night after the men's game, me and some of my buddies who work for athletics celebrated the win by staying after everyone left and hooping for another hour, playing some 3-on-3.
That's fun.
And I forgot how exhausting basketball is. I've been going to the gym. I did leg day yesterday, which sucked because I played basketball last night, and my legs, and I twisted my ankle last night at basketball. So my body's shot. Mentally, I'm so locked in. I'm ready to preview whatever teams I'm previewing. I don't remember. I do remember. But I'm mentally could not be more here. But physically, I am ready for bed.
That's fair. I feel you on the basketball. Full shift last night in the intramural game. Played the full 40. So my legs, especially the lower legs, it's just hard on the ankles, man. The question I was going to ask is, why in the world do you have to get there 3 hours before a baseball game?
Gates open an hour and a half before, and we need to test everything before people get there, and we need to have time that if something doesn't work when we test it, to troubleshoot and fix it.
Do you have to get there 3 hours before a basketball game?
2 hours. Gates open an hour before for basketball.
Gotcha, that's what it is.
And
That is
everything's a smaller scale for basketball, so things are
Sure.
easier to troubleshoot and work through. Baseball, the reality is that for state, baseball has larger attendance, some bigger aspects of presentation. Like, I would say it goes like football, baseball, and then basketball. Football was a 4 hour before call time, so those were 8-hour days. But yeah, it's really not that bad. I get there and I test my camera out, and then just kind of I just chill. That's usually when I do my Wordle.
Sure.
I'll do the sports trivia app you showed me. I'll work through those.
Yeah.
I've gotten good at the team identification things.
It's really fun.
Yeah. But yeah, I usually just chill for a little bit, and then I'm out on the field, and the weather's been awful this week because day 1 I thought it was going to be warm, and then I go outside and it was cold, and then day 2 I dressed for the cold, and of course it was hot.
Naturally.
So I'm tired. I'm ready for bed, but instead we are here, and
It's going to be a light 2-hour podcast.
I think it's going to be 2 hour, maybe not. I feel like I don't have any like big takes. I feel like for a lot of the teams I've talked about, the Rams, I cooked. I chefed up some stuff there. The Titans, I chefed up some stuff there.
I mean, you chefed up,
I
Burger
chefed
King.
up the future of the franchise for Los Angeles
You put the
Rams.
fries in the bag, basically.
I chefed up
No.
the future
No.
of the franchise for Los Angeles Rams. I have them win. I mean, they're going to win. I told you, Josh Pate basically said he wouldn't be surprised to see Taylor Green win a Super Bowl in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, that is a rough paraphrase.
Very rough.
What he did say is that there's a second and third tier of quarterback that he could see drafted and end up in the right situation, that in 3 to 5 years you see one of them in a Super Bowl. And I took that, and he threw out some names, and Taylor Green was one of the names.
Yeah,
And
you
so
condensed that,
I
sure.
texted that in yapping. I was like, Josh Pete said Taylor Green is going to win the Super Bowl, which is basically what he said.
It's
It's not a direct quote.
Sure.
And then I found out tonight that he actually, if you look him up on Safari, Kalen DeBoer shows up, which was that was wild.
That is pretty
I thought that was a
iconic.
joke. I thought that was a meme. I did not realize it was for real. But yeah, I wrote my first article for my
I read
website
it.
for fun. I was just kind of sitting there today, and I was just looking at or was it yesterday? I
Did
was
you
looking
jinx them is the real question?
I don't want to talk about it. I think this might be the second time I've jinxed them. Oh my gosh. 2 years ago, the year we did not make the tournament with, I believe, 6 games left in the schedule, maybe 8. Mississippi State was like a 7 seed in the women's basketball tournament. And I tweeted something saying, I read this to Harris a week ago. I roughly what I said was, Mississippi State has like 7 games left, and 6 of those opponents are below 500 in the SEC right now. Like if we can win out, we could host as a top 4 seed. and we lost 6 of the next 8 and did not make the tournament. Today, I made a little article, just testing some of the stuff on my website that I'm designing, and this was the first article I've written, so it's kind of a short one. But it was like Mississippi State could still make it and get a first round bye in the SEC tournament, and here's how. And it was, these teams are still ahead of them. They've got tiebreakers over because they played them earlier this season. They're 11 seed right now. They only need this team to lose this many times, et cetera, stuff like that. Posted that. It worked really well. The website, the article, posting. My uncle, who's got a lot of experience with coding, is helping me with that. It worked great. It went out super smooth, and I like how it looks and everything. And then we lost tonight. So I do think that I've now jinxed them 2 of the last 3 years, and I do feel personally responsible for that. But, yeah, I'm all caught up. Haven't seen y'all. I haven't been here for a show in, 2 weeks?
Yeah, just about.
Because we had that Thursday. It's been since a week and a half, 2 weeks. I don't know.
Something like that.
JP, how are you?
I'm good. My sleep schedule is completely toasted.
Well, I did see you texted something you texted at 2. Would you like to say what you texted at 2:12 a.m. to the group chat?
What did I text at 2:12?
What did you? I don't know. Dude, you cooked me the other day. What did you? Okay. Running joke. We need more running jokes in this podcast. And one of the running jokes that we have internally, that's not an external joke. The first of all, one of them is celebrate defense. JP says that all the time in yapping. We love to celebrate, or he loves to celebrate defense and remind all of us. But the one that cooked me is when this podcast was very early, so like a year ago, very early, very young. Geno Smith was traded.
Yes.
Traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. And I texted, I said, guys, we should do an emergency pod about this. I want to talk about this. This is a big deal. And I was ridiculed for it. The reason I wanted to talk about it is because it did not make sense for either team. The Seattle Seahawks, in my opinion, wow, this was my bad take.
Yeah,
downgraded to Sam Darnold.
For the list.
Bad take by me. They downgraded to Sam Darnold, I thought, and the Las Vegas Raiders brought in a win-now quarterback with an awful roster. And turned out to be a terrible take, and we didn't do an emergency podcast. And then they've made fun of me since then about, emergency podcast this, emergency podcast. A couple of days ago, when Tyreek Hill got released, was that what it was?
Yes.
JP said, at 10 o'clock that morning, what's it going to take? What's going to be the first thing that makes Sanders call for an emergency podcast? I didn't see that message. A few hours later, Jack texted and said Tyreek Hill was released, and I said, emergency podcast, ? And then I went back and reread the messages from a few hours before, and I realized that JP was like, Sanders is going to call for an emergency podcast soon. He did not know it was going to be in the following hours.
Yeah, that day.
So that was, dude, I felt very got at that moment.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, I do apologize for interrupting. That's just a funny story.
No,
what did you say at 2:15 this morning?
Oh, I said draft Jeremiah Love, which is now the second time that I've said draft Jeremiah Love. Obviously speaking about the New Orleans Saints.
Naturally.
At 8th overall should draft Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, my alarm goes off at 7:15 this morning, and I sleepy, roll over, turn it off, and then I'm like, I'll just check my messages, see if anyone's texting or anything. And it's like, oh, JP texted. What is JP doing up this early? Because, I don't know. And not only what are you doing up this early, what are you doing up this early texting draft Jeremiah Love? And then I look and I'm like, oh, okay, it was from 2 last night.
Why is your sleep schedule so cooked?
I mean,
Olympics
No.
Okay.
I wish I could even say it was something that simple. This week has been a ton for school-wise, and but I also have just been terrible at going to bed at the right time. So
It happens.
2 a.m. has been my normal time so far this entire semester.
Yeah.
Let's see. 2 nights ago, though, I was up till 3:45.
Okay.
But I was working on homework, and it took me till 3:45 to finish said homework. And then last night, I needed to go to bed early. I did not. I ended up going to bed at about 1 a.m., and because I'd been up till 3:45 the night before, I couldn't go to sleep. I was going on a plant visit for my senior design project, going back to Toyota, and I had to get up at 5:30 a.m. this morning. So I wouldn't classify today's sleep as a big sleep. I'd more classify it as a nap because I went to bed and I think I fell asleep at about 4.
Sure.
So I got about a 1.5 hour nap before getting up and then going to the plant. And then I got back from the plant and I took a 4-hour nap.
That's fire.
So that might have been what the actual sleep was. So I'm really curious to see how tonight goes.
I feel like y'all are honestly, due to maybe sleep deprivation and weird sleep schedules, like weirdly juiced.
Us?
Yeah, like y'all just sound a little
I do
more
feel.
upbeat.
I also started taking creatine. What is
Wow.
does that juice you?
I don't know.
what that does to your body. I feel
I
like it's
have
supposed to be
no
good for you.
clue.
I think it juices you.
As someone that has clearly never used creatine, I can
yeah.
tell you.
Well, it's I'm trying to take care of my body and do all
Yeah,
the healthy stuff. So better sleep schedule has been in the process.
Yeah.
Blue light glasses, so I go to sleep better at night. They're also a great fashion statement.
Sure.
The sun
some
goes
would say
down.
that.
Yeah, some might say that. JK told me that I look like Clark Kent because with the glasses, like if she's there at a basketball game, she's like, I don't recognize you. She like told Win is like, I don't know what Sanders looks like with glasses. So now I'm wearing hat and glasses, and I really must look
naturally.
insanely different. But yeah, I feel very juiced. I'm ready to go and get started.
Let's do it then. Let's get started.
I don't know if I want to go first, but
I've kicked us off basically every time, so I can kick us off again.
Your
I'm
team.
gonna lay out what we're doing real quick.
Do it.
We have 6 more teams left to do off-season primers for. We're doing all 6 tonight. It's a weird conglomeration of teams, a couple NFC East teams, a couple AFC East teams, both teams that were in the Super Bowl because obviously we didn't want to do them while they were still playing. So all those teams are going to get hit, the remaining 6, and that's it. And then we'll roll Tuesday. We're going to do our 3 best football predictions from the past season and our 3 worst football predictions from the last season.
If you're a longtime viewer and you think of something that we should talk
you can
about,
send
you
it
should
in.
send that in
If you
because
go,
I have a bad memory.
Man, that guy really cooked, or man, that guy put out the worst take of all time.
Yeah.
Let us know. We can include it.
Panthers fans, y'all are welcome to speak freely.
You could argue with one way or another with that one.
I don't think you could, but we'll see.
He didn't say they were going to go over in 17. He just said they were on watch. Anyway, that's what we're doing. We're going to do that Tuesday, and then that wraps up this whole past season of college football and NFL. We'll still have football content as news breaks, NFL signings, free agency signings happen.
Maybe an emergency pod here and there.
Maybe emergency pod here and there. We'll have draft coverage, but it'll all be forward focused from this point on. So, with that being said, I'm just gonna let you choose which of my teams you want me to do first.
You are doing the Dolphins and the Jets.
Correct.
Dude, all right,
2 humdingers.
I'm ready to talk about the Dolphins. I'm very interested, so let's do the Dolphins.
Yeah, so the Dolphins are it's a big-time transition off-season for the Dolphins. Sorry, I'm pulling up my notes real quick. I should have already had it up, but it is what it is.
You should definitely start it over for when I edit it.
I can do.
Appreciate.
Yeah, so it's a big-time transition offense for the Dolphins. Holy shit, I'm just restarting. We're cooking. It's a big-time transition off-season for the Dolphins. There we go. New coaching staff. They're going to be having a new QB starting for them next season. They've been the most proactive team so far with cutting and releasing players. Tyreek Hill, for example, already mentioned on the pod. He's been released, stuff like that. But first, we're going to look at the 2025 MVP and the 2025 unsung hero of the team. I got to give the 2025 MVP to my boy, Devon Achane. Gig him. 1,800-plus scrimmage yards. Led the league in yards per rush attempt. Only had 12 touchdowns, though. A little disappointing. I'm sure fantasy owners would have liked that to be higher. But what can you do when your team sucks and Tua is trying to facilitate the offense? And the Dolphins agree with me here. They're trying to move on from Tua. So shout out Devon Achane. Really carried that offense at times last year, it felt. Big plays, galore, explosive threat. Such a joy to watch. That's my MVP. Any other people to toss out there?
I think what's kind of surprised me about HN this year was I had him on my fantasy team, and so it was awesome to cheer for him all year, and it was very interesting to be part of the side of the reception farming that he is.
Oh, he's so good at
that
it.
he's
Check
a weapon,
down merchant.
Yeah, in fantasy football because of that. Like this year he had one shy of 68 catches, but what shocked me this year was how good he was in the run game.
Yep.
He led the league in yards per attempt this season, which is I think that would surprise people. If you ask people who led the league in yards per attempt this year, I think they'd get through 5 guys before they got to Devon Achane.
Yeah.
You think of like Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think anyone would say Saquon with the year he had, but Bijan Robinson.
Yep.
Maybe like a Rico Dowdle, who had an insane second half of the season. HM was really, really good on the ground. And sadly, the Dolphins are going to be in a rebuild, and we're kind of wasting the years of his running back prime because running backs' primes are 22, 27, give or take. He'll be turning 25 next season. But that really surprised me out of him this year. And I just love that, one, he was able to play in as many games as he did, stay healthy. That's kind of been a concern for him. And then for him to be as successful as he was on the ground was really surprising.
Yeah,
And that is with his longest carry of the season was 59 yards.
Yeah.
So he didn't even have like a 98-yarder. Like
boost the
Bijan
numbers.
had 2 of those this year.
You can tell he's bulked up a little bit, so he's lost the true like S-tier speed. I mean, he's still crazy fast.
Yeah.
He's just not the guy that, had the. I mean, he was a track runner. He no longer kind of runs like that track star. But it has definitely helped him. Bulking up has in the run game. So, any thoughts on Devon, or you want to give another shout out for MVP?
No, I think that's
Okay.
definitely the guy on the team that deserves it the most. So
Sure.
100% okay with that. Especially, I remember early in the season, that play. I'm sure you remember at the screen, like the little wheel route to the right, that he just scores a touchdown when he had no right to score a
Yeah.
touchdown.
Was it on 3rd and goal from the 10 or like 4th and goal
I think
from
it
the
might have been
10? And they
4th
just were
and
like,
goal.
I think it was 4th down. I'm
and
pretty
they
sure it was 4th
throw
down.
a check down to the flats, and he's
Yeah.
like, I got y'all.
It
and
was probably
scores.
third down. There's no way to a check
I
down.
think it was
think it
4th
was
because I
4th
think it was
down.
just ridiculous that ball was thrown to him.
Either way, it was a wild. Yeah, 3rd and 10 from 3rd and goal from the 10, 4th and goal from the 10. It was a wild play. He had no right to score, and yet he did. And I think that's just kind of, if you had to sum up the Dolphins' entire like offense in one play, it was that. It was just give the ball to Devon Achane, and either he's gonna succeed and then the team will succeed, or he's gonna fail and then
Yeah.
the team's gonna fail.
In terms of unsung MVP, this was a tough one to come up with. They're not a good team, so it wasn't like there were tons of depth pieces, providing good impact. And then also, I'm not even gonna lie, it's not like I was tuning into the Dolphins week in and week out, so it's not like I know this roster very well.
I only was because of Devon Achane
Sure.
fantasy
Yeah.
purposes.
But I give it to their center, Aaron Brewer, 2nd graded center on PFF, had a really good season. Was very impactful in the run game, helping Devon Achane hit those marks he did. Shout out him. Centers don't really get much love in general, so figured I'd give him a shout.
Yeah, I did not know that name, so it fits the unsung very well. I wouldn't have known to look there, to be honest. Jordan Brooks,
Sure.
he was all pro first team for them. He's not really known as one of the top middle linebackers in the league. He led the league in combined tackles and solo tackles this year,
Shout out
which is partially because they had to play so much defense because their
Yeah.
offense wasn't very good. But he also had a very good year because of the opportunity that he was given.
Yeah.
Some guys could just miss all the tackles and they wouldn't have that kind of number.
Yeah.
But I like that. Aaron Brewer was his name.
Yeah.
him. Aaron Brewer.
I will remember that. We'll table that for Dolphins draft discussions
Sure.
and Dolphins discussions going forward.
Well, moving on to this upcoming year. Once again, I called it a transition off season, and I'm going to be very upfront for this team on what their 2026 goal is, and that's rebuild, find your quarterback. Hopefully, you can see if you hire the right coaching staff to do so or not. Draft well, trade away some of your older pieces to get more draft picks because they're not going to be around after this rebuild ends. I'll reiterate that at the end. I'll kind of go back to it, but throughout this whole primer, that's kind of what we're going to be looking at. For them to do. That's how they should spend their draft picks, spend their money, et cetera, et cetera. About their new coaching staff, though, head coach Jeff Hafley, and he's brought in 2 new coordinators. Obviously, he's not keeping the coordinators around. The DC, Sean Duggan, is coming from the Packers. And then the OC, Bobby Slowick, most well-known for his days as the Texans offensive coordinator, I'd argue.
I mean, I would argue is from his time as PFF, but that's just because I'm a PFF
Sure.
guy. so-
Naturally. But he spent time on the Dolphins staff last year. Just obviously wasn't the offensive coordinator. So the new staff moves. Do you have anything about Jeff Hafley? Not a name I'm really very familiar with. So.
The Packers defense, we talked about this when we talked about the Packers.
Yeah.
On Tuesday. Trying to get my days right. You can't even remember days these days.
Yeah.
He had that defense kind of like abnormally really good. Green Bay has not been known for great defenses in the past 2 years. He's had that defense as top 10. This year with the help of Micah Parsons, they looked like one of the best defenses in the league. Like multiple weeks that this season, they made teams look goofy like Detroit in Week 1. Sadly, your Commanders in that Thursday night football game, and there's a few others where they really. I mean, some of the games they lost, like the Cleveland Browns game. Cleveland could not move the football whatsoever, but Jordan Love and that offense threw the game, not necessarily the defense. So he has the last 2 years had very, very good defenses, and I think that's that would be something to look forward to for Miami. We in the Mike McDaniel tenure, it was never about defense with them. It was about their offensive firepower and their speed, and so I think it'll be a very interesting culture shift there with Jeff Hafley. He's one of the things he mentioned in his first press conference was he is already going to make a promise that he's made a promise that they will draft a quarterback every single year, which is kind of shocking. It's not something that coaches and owners are going to go out there and say, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to draft a first rounder every year, but they could draft a 7th rounder, a 5th rounder. This year, I would imagine they're going to draft some kind of quarterback.
Yes.
To bring in some kind of competition with Quinn Ewers, especially if Tua isn't the guy going forward, and I wonder if Tua will be added to the guys that they cut.
It's looking pretty likely they're either going to trade or cut him.
Yeah.
From kind of what I was looking at. So expect him to be off the roster.
We can get into that more when we get into roster moves because I have some thoughts on that. I was listening to a podcast about that this morning, actually.
Sure. Well, talking about the draft, they draft at 11, 1 first-round pick. They have other picks. They have more than just their picks. They've made a couple trades.
They've actually, I didn't realize, they've got 3 third-rounders, which I love. I mean, I love me some second- and third-round picks. Like, sure, you'd love to have multiple first-rounders, but the third round is a fun place to draft because there's going to be some fun picks there.
Sure.
And I'm actually running a mock draft right now because I haven't done one for the Dolphins yet while you were just talking. So you go ahead and lay out. Do you have first-round thoughts or do you have
first-round thoughts as well as further down the board.
Sweet.
But starting with the first round, the needs are plentiful here. JP mentioned the quarterback need. I'm just going to say right now it's not getting addressed at pick 11. No one is worth taking in that realm.
That would be the shock of the night.
It would be the shock of the night when Garrett Nussmeier goes 11th overall to the Dolphins. So don't expect quarterback there.
I mean, you might have to take Taylor Green at 11 to beat the Rams for him.
I just think it would be absolutely hilarious for it to be like if it was Ty Simpson or Garrett Nussmeier. It would just be hilarious that it was one of those guys and Quinn Ewers are the guys competing for an NFL starting quarterback job. I think that's just hilarious, especially for a lot of SEC fans like ourselves.
Sure.
But continue where they'll actually go.
Other needs, edge. They could use some interior offensive line help. Cornerback is a big need. Wide receiver. And so I think they're kind of in a pretty unique spot here at 11 with a lot of needs to just, see who falls to them. One of their guys, maybe Mansour Delane, for example, makes it to 11. He's a perfect pick, or maybe you go Jermod McCoy if you love him. There's kind of, I feel like, a semi-consensus tier 1 of wide receivers of Cardinal Tate's obviously like 1A, but then it's like Mekhi Lemon and Jordan Tyson. So maybe, one of those guys is at 11. You really want to get another wide receiver. Maybe one of the edges you really like falls to you. You take him. Maybe Ruben Baines there at 11. You are one of the people that's high on him. You take him. So I don't really know where they're going to go. I would love them to take cornerback. And here's why. Could you all name a cornerback currently on their roster?
Yes, Storm Duck, but only because I have been listening to people talk about how bad that cornerback room is.
Is Rasul Douglas still in there?
He's a free agent.
Okay, then that would have been the only one I could.
Yes, and Dolphins, if you're listening, I would try and bring him back because he actually had a pretty good season. He's one of the few in that room to have a pretty good season. Their 2 best cornerbacks are leaving. Other names in that room currently: Jason Marshall, Julius Brents, Miles Battle, Ethan Robinson, Isaiah Johnson. It's not a good room. Most of the guys I just mentioned barely played snaps last year.
The only one I know is Juju Brents.
Yep. It's a huge, massive need. And so I don't know. I love the idea of getting kind of a cornerstone of the secondary here at 11. I'm pretty high on the top of this cornerback class as well personally, so that's kind of where I'm at. And then further down the line, sounds like they're going to take a quarterback. There's great options in the second and third round. You have 3 third-round picks. That's a great spot maybe to look to do that. You can address edge. If you don't go wide receiver here, there's a couple good, second-round wide receiver options you can kind of look to fill out. once again, the needs are plentiful, so there's so many ways they could play this, but you just got to get high in talent on this team.
Yeah, for sure. I was just looking. I don't really know what they'll do with their second-round pick, but a third-round pick I think is a great spot. Maybe you could get one of the Indiana wide receivers. I don't know how far they'll fall. It just depends, I guess, on how high you are on them. But there's going to be some really good opportunities. I do think quarterback, third round is a great spot for that. You kind of get probably your pick of the guys who were first-rounders 8 months ago. Nussmeier, Beck, Klubnik. There's going to be a lot of opportunities there in that third round.
Yeah,
But-
you'll definitely find a couple of those guys there. I imagine one or two will end up like kind of re-rising a little bit. But aside from that, there definitely will be good options.
Yeah, it just
there.
feels like someone has to pop at the combine,
Yeah.
especially with Mendoza isn't going to throw at the combine. He has no reason to. So it does feel like someone would show up, and maybe Taylor Green because of the way he looks.
We'll get that
You
Zach
think- you think
Wilson
of
throw.
like- you think of Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson, sure.
The way he kind of popped at the combine, especially like when he ran the 40 and he immediately kind of shot up. But I do want to say, don't take everything from the combine as the gospel.
Yep.
Tyler Shuck had 3 of the worst combine throws of all time last year.
Yep.
Was the second quarterback off the board.
Trevon
and he's
Walker
gonna be a
was
starter.
like athletic freak and a beast, and he's been good, but he wasn't the first overall pick. He should've
Shamar
been-
Stewart was breaking records at the combine
Yeah.
last year. He didn't really have a great rookie season. But yeah, that's kind of really it on the draft. And then looking at their cap situation, they're right around 0 in cap. Expect more to open up when they release Tua, but it'll, free some money. It's not like they're going to be in the 30s or 40 millions in terms of cap space. So what I'm looking for them to acquire in free agency, cornerback. Ideally, you just bring back Rasul Douglas. I think he's a really good fit here. Maybe even bring in a quarterback if you want a veteran. I don't really love the idea of sitting here and it's Quinn Ewers and a rookie, and then it's kind of like, cool. I mean, there's a very likely possibility that both those guys just suck, and then you're stuck. So even it doesn't even need to be a high-end veteran. Like, I'm not saying go try and get Marcus Mariota or
Go get Jameis.
you could try that. What's the other guy? Kirk Cousins. I Ryan Tannehill in my head as Kirk Cousins, and I knew obviously it was not Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill's probably on his couch if you wanted a really veteran quarterback to take the reins potentially. But I would get another quarterback in free agency, some offensive line help, shore up that defensive line as well. You don't have tons of money to spend. There's also just not tons of reason to like go out there and try and like make splashy moves in free agency. I think the goal here pretty clearly is to be bad this year. Try and get a quarterback potentially of the future, unless maybe Quinn Ewers is the guy. But yeah, I don't see any they're not going to be trying to get Trey Hendrickson or trying to get Alec Pierce or any of the bigger names. So.
This offseason is kind of a disaster in terms of trying to rebuild.
Yeah.
Just think of the dead cap. They cut Bradley Chubb. That was the most recent one to
Actually,
go along with.
I don't think they as of this morning they hadn't officially cut him. I'll just interject here with this. I was listening to Check the Mic and they were talking about it. They announced they were going to cut him and Tyreek Hill around the same time. They have followed through on the Tyreek Hill. They haven't released Bradley Chubb yet. And their theory is it's apparently not unusual that when you announce you're going to cut somebody, if another team wants him, they say, hey, can we have him for a 6? Like, let's cut the whole, we don't want to deal with him in the free agency. We don't want to be in a bidding war with other teams. Can you just ship him to us, is a 7th or 6th enough for y'all to, figure out the contract situation? So I don't think Chubb's been cut yet.
Even if they trade him, they still have to take the same dead money. So you think of him and Tua this year, if they are to cut Tua or trade Bradley Chubb, it's $99 million in dead money across a few years for Tua. Bradley Chubb is $23 million in dead money. Then you already have on the books Tyreek Hill was $28, Jalen Ramsey is $20, Teron Armstead, who's been retired for a while, is $10, and then you have a few others. Zach Wilson is taking up $4 million in dead cap money this year.
Shout out Zach
for Miami.
Can they not? If they were to trade Tua, is there not a way in which they could move that dead money over?
No.
Okay, because I also heard Check the Mic. They were talking about previous trades where basically the team dumping the player will also send a higher draft pick and to be like, hey, if you take the salary, we'll give you like Tua and a second rounder for a third rounder, right? Because that's like we're trying to get rid of the money, we're trying to get rid of the salary, the caps, and fix out the
Sure.
cap situation. So I don't understand all the technicalities of how cap space works out, but I think that was another approach that's been discussed, at least on the one podcast I listened to.
That being said, they do all that. The following offseason, they're going to have roughly $60 million
Yeah.
cap room.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to really try and get off the dead money because you're not. It's like you're not going to free up that money to then this offseason sign a player that's gonna make you a playoff team, right? So you might as well just kind of eat the money, not trade away a draft pick if possible, stuff like that. Any other thoughts on the free agency? If not, I'll kind of reiterate their 2026 goal and we can move on.
Go ahead.
I have be bad is my first 2026 goal for them. But you need to have more than that, and that's kind of find the skeletons of your future good team. Get guys excited. Next offseason we can have this maybe the spin zone of like, hey, look, their first round pick, let's say it's Mansour Delane, was fantastic his rookie year. Devon Achan's still here kicking. He looks
You're
great.
not trading Devon Achan?
Maybe you do. I'm just interested, like, what's his trade value?
As
he's just a running
Where is
back.
he on his
It's going
contract?
to be a rental deal if
It's
they
going to
trade
be a
him.
rental as
Is
well.
he got 1 year left?
1 year.
1 year.
It'd be a rental deal.
So maybe you do trade him because it's like, well, we're not going to be good anyway. So even if we just get like a 4th round pick or something, like better than nothing.
Yeah.
But okay, say he's out the window. But even still, this guy had a great season. We can build around him. The wide receiver, Omar Cooper we got later, had a great rookie season. Hey, now we just need our quarterback and, a really good defensive lineman. And then we're cooking. And then, the year after, boom, we're ready.
You just described the Houston Texans. Derek Stingley is your Mansour Delane.
Sure.
You just said a really good defensive lineman. That's Will Anderson. Both those guys were drafted before their... Actually, I guess, C.J. Stroud and Anderson were drafted in the same year. So I guess not exactly, but it sounds like a similar approach to me a little bit because it's a new coaching staff, right? So you want to see them come in and kind of show that they can handle it. So that just kind of sounded a little bit like the Houston Texans
Correct.
to me, especially like I just thought it was funny you mentioned like Mansour Delane coming in. It reminded me of Derek Stingley.
And that's
Another LSU cornerback,
It's
actually.
a good point, too, talking about the Houston Texans. Obviously, no guarantee this happens, but things can really flip quickly in the NFL with just a couple good players and then talking about next offseason, they're going to have a lot of cap space. Like, realistically, this is a 2-3 year project, most likely 3. But if you just hit on a couple draft picks, find some real studs, you could be at least kind of back in, hey, maybe we can make the playoffs in 2 years or something like that. But yeah, you got to – they're restarting. So make your, foundation good.
Cool.
I'm fine with that.
Do we want
Completely
to
fine with that.
move on? Next up would be we can just go and let's see. That was the AFC East. Let's knock out. Let's see who had the Jets.
I have the Jets. I mean, we can.
Okay,
if we
let's
don't wanna-
do another
yeah.
AFC East team.
do it.
JP, you got the Patriots.
Yeah, New England sadly has to deal with the sting of losing in the Super Bowl, and that is not something that they will get by very quickly. You just even in the immediate post-game press conference and then in the end-of-season press conference with a lot of the players, but specifically like Mike Vrabel, you could tell how much the loss is weighing on them. And it sucks to see that because for how good of a season that they had and going 14-3 and undefeated on the road, and Drake May is a vote away from winning the MVP, and they won 3 playoff games, the beatdown that they suffered in the Super Bowl kind of left a sour taste in their mouth, and it's really hard, at least in the current state, the present, to look back on this season and think that it was an overwhelming success because they thought that they could win the championship, and sadly they did not do that. In-house, they feel like they should have won the championship and that they will continue to be a team that is going to do that in the future. And speaking of this past season, I thought for MVP, kind of no debate, it's Drake May.
Gotta be.
He was literally second MVP voting. He led the league in completion percentage at 72%, and then he led the league in passer rating and QBR, both of the quarterback key stats. Of course, like he was second in MVP voting by just a vote. He had 4,400 passing yards and 450 rushing yards, 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. What happened?
I was just looking
Jack
back at
just
the
looked at
Justin
the Herbert jersey like
because
it
you were
was-
like, you
yeah.
know,
Oh.
He was
missed it
one
by a
vote away.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
No, that's fine.
distract.
Yeah, that's definitely not
I was
how
making sure
it
it wasn't
happened.
something I said.
No.
So Drake May, for me, it has to be the MVP. I don't think it's kind of really debatable. I have, some of my friends would jokingly say that the MVP was Ramondre Stevenson. That is only because one of my friends hates Ramondre Stevenson because he had Travion Henderson this year, and he didn't understand why Travion Henderson didn't get more snaps.
Because he just wasn't very good.
Exactly. We agree. My friend does not agree with that, though, as the Henderson owner. Do you guys have someone who was better than Drake May this year?
No,
I do not.
Not at all.
I think if there were any guys that deserve a shout, Sanders deserves a shout in terms of Stephon Diggs had a very, very good year. They didn't end up, setting a record, but they were on pace at one point in the season to have the best completion percentage between a wide receiver and quarterback duo in NFL history. That was about 12 weeks into the season. That did not continue. And, of course, with the way the postseason went, that definitely did not continue between the two of them. I thought Chason, the former first-round pick of Jacksonville, was really, really good for them this year. A lot of the additions they added defensively, where they had a ton of cap space, and something that we talked about in the preseason for this team was, did it feel like they were spending money just to spend money? And one of the big conversations we had was, did they just add guys and not splash guys that were going to make an instant impact? We were all wrong there. Like guys like Milton Williams had an incredible year. You think of what Robert Spillane was able to do for them as a captain and the middle linebacker he had an excellent year. And there are many other signings. I think Carlton Davis is one of those guys who had a really, really incredible year for them. And that defense really carried them throughout the postseason, and their offense carried them throughout the regular season. So there are some guys that deserve a shout for unsung hero. Do you guys know the name Harold Landry?
yeah.
Okay.
Defense is edge rusher.
Yes, former Tennessee
he's
Titan.
definitely he's a guy we talked
flew
about.
under the radar. He led the team in sacks. He was another one of their free agent signings this year. But Jalen Hawkins was the actual unsung hero.
Oh, okay,
Do
that's
you know
good.
what position he plays?
Safety.
He does play safety.
Bang. That was just a shot in the dark because I feel like I know the names of a lot
It's
of
a
their
great
other
safety
positions.
name as well.
Yeah.
If you're
It
gonna,
is a great
play by
Hawkins
the name game. Exactly.
as a safety. He had led the team with 4 interceptions. He played a key part in that defense throughout the year, a defense that lost key safeties that had been pillars for them in Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar, not just this offseason, but from a couple years ago. He was one of the cornerstones back there for them at safety. And something I do want to mention as kind of an unsung is they had 10, if I'm not mistaken, 10 draft picks in this past draft. All 10 of them started a game for them this year at one point. And that is it speaks kind of volumes to this young team was able to start guys that were drafted in the 7th round and 6th round. And then, of course, the key guys like Travion Henderson and Will Campbell and their offensive guard, their left guard, who was also a rookie, starting multiple key snaps this year. All 10 guys that were drafted started at one point this year. And I think that speaks to the kind of culture that they're building there, and maybe that is something that they can look to continue to be able to do, because that's not something that happens a lot. That's pretty rare for you to start all of your draft picks, especially when you have a lot of late picks. I think they had 4 picks, if I'm not mistaken.
And usually, if you do, you don't make the Super Bowl. It's because you were bad.
Agreed. For coaching changes, they promoted Zach Kerr to their permanent defensive coordinator. Their defensive coordinator coming into the season was dealt with a flare-up in prostate cancer and had to leave the team. And so if I'm not mistaken, Zach Kerr was the defensive back coach, ended up calling the plays for much of the year, and that defense was top 3 in the league this year.
Pretty no-brainer to give him the spot.
Absolutely. He was promoted to permanent defensive coordinator. They, of course, kept Josh McDaniels since his head coaching dreams and aspirations are probably out the window. And that was really the big only change in-house from a coaching change perspective for the NFL draft. The Patriots, because they were the runner-up in the Super Bowl and still have their first-round pick, will pick 31st, and that will be the second-to-last pick of the first round. One of the things I'll talk about with Seattle, and I'll go in again to talk about it with New England here, is that these late first-round picks it's not necessarily about finding. You're not going to find a lot of blue-chip guys, but you're hoping to get lucky and find a guy that's going to be a consistent starter for you for years to come. And I think of guys in the previous 5 years that were drafted, like Greg Rousseau, Buffalo's best edge rusher, was the 30th overall pick for Buffalo. Malachi Starks last year, who had an excellent year this year for the Baltimore Ravens, he fell all the way to 27. George Karlaftis, also another AFC edge rusher, Kansas City's edge rusher. He just got signed to a massive extension, $20 million plus per year. He was a 30th overall pick in his first-round draft. But those picks are, if you do the numbers, just at least on the last 5 years, that's like roughly 1 out of 7 to 1 out of 6, if you're thinking like 27 to 32 of those guys hitting and being consistent starters for you. More often, you're going to find draft picks like Peyton Turner, N'Keal Harry, Jeff Gladney. I don't even know that name. That was one of those first-round picks. Joe Tyron Shoyinka, the Buccaneers edge rusher, Lewis Seen, etc. So it can be a guessing game a little bit. And funny enough, you go back into some of these drafts, and the guys who are picked at the top of the second round are like infinitely better than these end of the first round. Like even last year, you think of Carson Schlesinger, the first pick of the second round for the Cleveland Browns. Tyler Shuck.
Pick?
Yes, he was. I think he was actually, the sixth pick. Yeah, you're right. I was going to say I thought he was the one higher than 6, but I won't say that. Those for some reason, it seems like those picks hit more often. And there's a few other ones that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. Will Levis, one of them. Joking, of course. But that is what New England's kind of looking for. And that is something that they would try to prioritize in this draft class. I also think like maybe they're a spot of a team that trades in looking for a fifth-year option. And I'll mention the same thing with Seattle. But it's also a weird year of quarterbacks. Like, Sanders and I think – Sanders for sure, he thinks 3 quarterbacks should go in the first round. Fernando Mendoza, Taylon Green, his guy, and then, of course, Ty Simpson, his other guy.
I don't – okay.
He's really high on all 3 of those guys.
Nope.
But I don't know, how favorable that is for someone to trade in. One of the teams that did it last year was the New York Giants. They traded in.
Oh, look who just went in the first round of that mock at 29 to the Rams.
That is funny.
That makes a lot more sense than Taylon Green, for example.
Oh, we'll see. But Jackson Dart was a guy the Giants traded in and ended up drafting Jackson Dart. The Falcons, for whatever reason, traded in and drafted a guy with character issues who, shockingly, had character issues this past offseason. It feels like for New England, Seattle, they may be in that kind of spot with their offseason. They both kind of have, shockingly, a lot of cap space, so they're going to have some flexibility in terms of rebuilding these teams that played in the Super Bowl. Do you guys have any spot you would go for the draft? I think one thing that's a conversation is immediately you could see from the Super Bowl, we need to address the offensive line. But I don't know how you do it because their 3 best offensive linemen, the 3 guys that weren't rookies, Garrett Bradbury, center, Mike Owenu, I think is how you say his last name, their right guard, and then their right tackle, Morgan Moses, are all under contract next year and all had very excellent years, or at least above average years for an NFL offensive lineman. And then you have the 2 rookies on the left side. Mike Vrabel's already said Will Campbell is going to start at left tackle next year. Like he's already came out on the record and said that. So I think if anything, maybe you address Wilson, the left guard. But I don't know.
If you do, you're trying to do it through free agency because I don't know why you'd replace a guy who just had a bad rookie year because rookies often do that offensive line. Like, you're not going to be like, man, we had a guard have a bad rookie year. Let's go spend our 31st pick in the NFL draft and bring in a guy who's going to be like, I mean, he might be the best offensive guard, but it's still just going to. Well, I don't know if I'd rather start a first-year player over a guy who's got a year of experience under his belt. So if you're going to address it, you got to do it in free agency.
I don't feel like he was absolutely putrid either. Like Yeah, he had a very rough into the season, just like holy crap,
Will
don't-
Campbell?
Will
okay,
Campbell.
Yeah, thank you. Will Campbell did, but like it wasn't like we were talking all season about. Man, this guy reeks. Man,
Yeah.
this guy was really bad. So yeah, there's something to build on.
And it doesn't help that to close the season, you played the Texans defensive line, the Broncos defensive line, and the Seahawks defensive line.
And even the Chargers defensive line
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Tuli Piloto and Khalil Mack. Jared
Owe.
Wilson is who we're talking about specifically, the
Yes.
left guard for them. So I don't think they'll address in the draft. I do have some potential guys from free agency, but also it could be something if they like a guy a lot.
This is true.
Morgan Moses is only under contract the next 2 years, and that's their starting right tackle, and I think they imagine they're going to start Will Campbell at left tackle. But Will Campbell is also always kind of characterized as a guy who might be able to slide in and play guard. Francis Mauigoa is going to be a similar story this year's draft. If they really like him, like Caden Proctor from Alabama or Caleb Lomu, the other Utah offensive tackle, and there's even if you wanted to draft a guard, which I think Sanders makes the right take, there's no reason to. Vega, the offensive line for Penn State, if he falls this far, maybe it's a spot where they pull the trigger on that, but I wouldn't go offensive line. I think we're all in agreement there with that first-round pick especially. Where would you guys go? Best available?
So it's likely best available. I wouldn't hate a wide receiver here, depending on who's there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Stephon Diggs had a good season.
Denzel
He's getting
Boston.
older. If Denzel Boston's there, somebody like that. And then talking about best available, there's always one guy that falls to like one of the last, 3-ish picks, and everyone, makes the, oh my gosh, how do we let this guy fall that far? So like maybe they get that guy. No way of knowing who it is. I'll just say Jamrod McCoy, the Tennessee cornerback.
Okay.
Torn ACL. His medicals are hazy. People are scared off because of that. He falls. He gets drafted at 31st, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, we just let the Patriots get this guy. And then half the time it's like, okay, well, there's a reason he fell to 31. It doesn't work out. But
there's two of those that I come to mind from this past year's draft: Mike Green and Donovan Ezeraku,
Yeah.
Cowboys and Ravens
Correct.
edge rushers who didn't have great years.
Yeah. The one that comes to my mind though was CeeDee Lamb in that 2020 draft, I believe. But the only reason he went that far is because the Raiders drafted Henry Ruggs, and the Raiders are dysfunctional at drafting. So, or at least they were for that period under Gruden, I guess. He was in charge of I think that was a Gruden draft, or maybe it was McDaniel draft, but he's the one that comes to mind. So like there are guys that will slide that it doesn't make sense, but sometimes it's just you just get lucky and the teams in front of you
Correct.
really don't need that position, right? So they pass up or are dysfunctional.
Yeah, like I said, rough estimate looking at just the last 5 years, to my opinion, it's like a 1 out of 6 chance that one of these guys is like a starter, a consistent starter for over the course of 4 years. And some of the jury's still out on last year's draft class, but a guy like Greg Rousseau, George Karlaftis, who I mentioned earlier, or even Malachi Starks with the way he played last year, it feels like he's going to be that. Nate Wiggins is a guy who was drafted late in the first round, also another Ravens defensive back.
What if I have my
Go ahead.
draft? What if I could guarantee that you get a good player with that 31st overall pick? And he fills a position in need.
Okay.
A.J. Brown. All right, he's under contract, I believe, through 2029.
He's not worth a first-round pick, though.
I agree.
That's not his trade
I
value.
just think he needs a change of scenery.
But see,
Agreed.
because everyone knows he needs a change of scenery, the Eagles don't really have any leverage there. Like, how are you giving up a first-round pick for him?
Because I think that he would. I also throw that out because I think it's really funny that Vrabel is the one who drafted him and traded him from the Titans.
Sure.
So I don't think that it's gonna. I don't think that if they went and got a wide receiver, it would be A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
Just because clearly Vrabel has already moved on from him once. I don't know why he would choose to bring him in after some of the drama in Philly.
Maybe he just saw, really far ahead into the future. He was
Yeah,
in
I'm gonna
5
go-
years, I'll be the Patriots head coach. If I trade him now, I can get him in 5 years.
That's funny. While that would be cool, I do think wide receiver is going to be a need. I think that
Absolutely.
Stephon Diggs is probably not going to be there next year. That's kind of what the people I've listened to podcasts and on Twitter are saying, is that he's kind of in that stage where he's going to spend like 1 year at everywhere he lands for the last couple years of his career.
And the next year we'll just go to whoever gives him the most money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wide receivers going to be a need because you don't want to trot out Keyshawn Butte and Matt Collins and Demario
Even if he
Douglas.
doesn't leave, it's still a need regardless.
Yes.
It was something that was like a glaring hole this year. I think it was something we talked about. I know we talked about it with Sam Darnold, the Seahawks, jokingly so apparently. Did they have enough weapons? They clearly answered that with the way the year Jason had and even Cooper Kupp. But
AJ Barner. Don't
AJ
sleep on AJ
Barner and Torrey Horton was excellent until he got hurt, and then Rashid Shaheed replaced it. But back on New England, it was always going to be some kind of weakness with the youth that they had outside of Stephon Diggs. Matt Collins was, is this guy going to be something for them? Keyshawn Boutte is a guy who comes to mind. Demario Douglas, Kyle Williams, who was one of their picks in last year's draft. It still, I think, has to be addressed. I think if just to move on into free agency, like cap space, those kinds of decisions, they went heavy after the defense last year. Guys like Harold Landry and Milton Williams and Robert Spillane and Carlton Davis. This year, I think, in free agency and in the draft, I think they need to approach offense. They have $40 million in cap space next year. They only have two really notable free agents, and that is Chason, who had 7.5 sacks this year, and then Jalen Hawkins, who was my unsung hero for this team this year. That's really the only two key free agents. The only other one that comes to mind is they're losing their other two tight ends outside of Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, and Jack Westover. And so maybe tight end depth is going to be some kind of a problem. But I do think that they need to approach offense and playmakers, especially a receiver, tight end, maybe another guy who can roll in and play offensive line for them. And I think that's how they should approach the draft and free agency. I already have some guys that have come to mind of like Mike Evans, Rashid Shaheed. In a world where George Pickens is not franchise tagged or signed by Dallas, send a bag for George Pickens. I do think if you're looking at offensive linemen, it would be someone to start at left guard or who could roll to left tackle. And I think of the two former Browns offensive guards, Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio, who will both be free agents this year. And those are the kind of guys you'd love to sign because they're veteran guys. They've played a ton of snaps. They've played a ton of offensive line snaps. They got the experience
because they haven't won ever.
Yeah, they were Cleveland Browns.
I
They were both
believe
on the
both
playoff
of them-
team.
Yeah,
They were
that's true.
both on the team that won a playoff game, but they want
I believe
to
they are
taste-
both career Browns.
Yes.
So they want to win more than
Yeah,
a playoff
they
game.
want to taste the greatness. They want to taste, Ann Michael May's baked treats.
I mean,
Um,
I would too, so
Facts,
I can't
yeah.
hate that.
So I do think maybe one of those guys would be a really, really nice signing for them. Also because of their age, they're both in their 30s. You only have to sign them to 1 or 2 year deals. And I do think that is, at least in my Madden team building experience, the best way to do it is not sign the long 4 or 5 year deals and be locked into guys and prioritize signing guys to 2 or 1 year deals to keep your flexibility open.
Sure.
Because things are going to change. Drake May is going to end up getting paid a boatload of money in, I guess it'd be 2 years from now, in that coming off season. Those are the kind of guys I would approach. Are there any names that kind of pop off for you guys? Other receivers that are available? There's guys like Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, there's not a lot of options is the reality.
Yeah.
Free agency is kind of getting barer and barer. I feel like it's in part, the salary cap is expanding and teams are realizing how important it is to keep guys in-house and to prioritize that. Because, you go back a couple of years and it just feels like it was a lot easier to find guys on the market in free agency. So I do think the times have changed a little bit as far as that goes. But yeah, they're just set up in such a great situation, and you already touched on it about how they have so few starters that are, their contracts are up. They're returning almost everybody. And so if they can just either bring back those pieces like you might want to do with Chason, or find suitable replacements, you have a team that just went to the Super Bowl. and then you can have the discussion about, it was all because of your schedule. If it was, get better this offseason, right? You now have a team that 20 of the 22 guys will have played a full season together. Not a lot of other NFL teams can say that. And I don't know the last time you had a team that went to the Super Bowl and then returned 20 out of 22 guys. Or is it 20? Or is it 20? Is it 19? It's 20 because the tight ends are both backups. So you're returning 20 out of 22 guys from that starting lineup. I don't know. I would love to. I may have to look into that, like how the most returning players from a Super Bowl team. But this is a great situation. And so this offseason is, I would say, primarily about development, right? I would say don't address that offensive line. Develop the guys you already have there. Develop Will Campbell and Jared Wilson because they're both drafted in the first 3 rounds. Continue to develop Drake May. Try and work through some of the mistakes he made this offseason, right? Or this postseason, the collapse he had down the stretch. Work through that, improve on that, get to the point where that doesn't happen because you want to be in that situation again next year and you want to play better than that. Get him a big weapon. I mean, a name that comes to mind for me would be like a Jalen Waddle because I think the Dolphins are going to be in rebuild mode. I think the Dolphins are going to be bad for several years. The only issue is he's in the AFC East, and I know that teams in division don't like moving big pieces around like that. But Jalen Waddle has had really good games and really good half seasons when Tyreek Hill misses time here and there. So is he the kind of guy that, given a good quarterback and a good offense and not Tua turned the ball over, throwing him the ball, could he really ascend into that elite number 1 weapon or really good number 1? What does he look like there? Could they go get a Romeo Doubs? Could Romeo Doubs, do they try and follow the Green Bay Packers and just have a bunch of 2-ways at wide receiver? Or does Romeo Doubs...
Don't do that.
Don't follow the Packers? That's what we don't have to get into that. That's one of my best takes. That might be one of my best takes. We'll get into that later.
I more say don't do that. I need Romeo Doubs in a Commanders jersey. So.
Okay. But yeah, I think it's just get him a weapon. Let the offensive line develop because I think you've got the pieces there. Just let them figure it out, and then on defense, go get the guy or two you need.
I feel like it's kind of an incomplete offensive line. I feel like you're missing about 3-4 inches of Will Campbell's arms.
Sure.
I was really confused you were going with that. I disagree.
Okay.
But given this offseason, those baked goods, they do wonders. Put hair in your chest.
You can do a lot of just
grow
hanging from the pull-up bar.
Yeah, exactly. And put hair in your chest, grow a few inches out of the fingertips. No, I think this offseason is going to be really fun for the Patriots because there's so little to be done, and it's just going to be so much excitement.
Sure.
Yeah, speaking of Romeo Doubs, I don't want him in a Saints uniform because can you imagine a Guardian cap?
That's pretty bad.
Saints.
See,
look at that. You can't take
Commanders-
that gold and make it a Guardian cap.
The Commanders' jerseys already have no aura.
Yeah.
So it don't matter if it's a Guardian cap or not. We'll gladly welcome him.
Well, looking forward to next season, I do think the early realistic goal for the New England Patriots is to make the playoffs.
Sure.
And I said a very similar thing for the Chicago Bears on Tuesday's show, speaking of Caleb Williams. When you have a guy who, for Drake May, it was actually the opposite. Caleb had the electric postseason, although it wasn't good statistically. Drake May had the electric regular season and a bad postseason. I do think you need to make sure you give him another chance. See if he can, is he Justin Herbert or is he, going to be one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history like a lot of Patriots fans think he's going to be in Drake May, the heir to Tom Brady. So I think making the playoffs is the goal. Speaking of the schedule, you brought it up earlier. Schedule will not be a question next year, at least at this point.
Sure.
When you look at the teams, they play the NFC North, which was the only division where all 4 teams had a winning record. That includes the Minnesota Vikings with 9 and Max Brosmer and Carson Wentz.
Shout out 9.
They also play the AFC West, which is, of course, the division with the Broncos and Chargers, who made the postseason last year. Kansas City, you kind of expect to respond. And then Fernando Mendoza and Clint Kubiak, that's an interesting pairing there in Las Vegas because they finished.
Will you have them making the playoffs again next season?
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see. I do want to see how they approach the rest of the draft.
Lots
If
of
you
moves
did,
to
we
be
might
made.
need to have an intervention.
No, I'm here for it.
I
Honestly.
don't think it's.
I feel way
that
better
bad
about
of-
that take than last season. looking ahead, if the offseason pans out how I expect it to.
Yeah, okay. You now have a division that has the Broncos, who just won the AFC Championship.
Regression hitting hard.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Okay. Continue.
They also, of course, will play the Buffalo Bills twice in their own division once again, and they escaped with the win in Buffalo the first time, and then choked a 21-point lead to them the second time. They do you would think at least 4 wins in division with the Dolphins and Jets, but because they finished first in the AFC East, they have to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. There will be a Super Bowl rematch against the Seahawks in Seattle, and then they'll play the Pittsburgh Steelers, who they lost to earlier, this year at home. They'll play them at home again and try to get redemption in a game where I think they had 5 fumbles and ended up losing by 3 points.
Tough.
So the schedule will not be a question next year, outside of the Dolphins and Jets games, and maybe the J.J. McCarthy 9 game. So making the postseason, I think, is the goal for next year.
Sure.
Try to go 10-7, 9-8, prove that last season wasn't necessarily a fluke, and give Drake May and especially this team another chance in the postseason because, as we mentioned, so many guys are returning. It will be a very, very similar team next year for New England.
I wonder what Patriots fans' expectations are. And if you're a Patriots fan and you've made it this far in the video, I'm curious what the expectations are because I feel like they're going to have higher... Like, making the playoffs, I feel like is going to be a little low for them. Especially because, you said 10 games or 9 games. Like, that's a wild card you're talking about. You're talking about being a wild card at that point. In all likelihood, because I don't think the Bills are going to win 8 games. And so you're talking about, like, the expectation is finish second in your division after you just won it and you were the 2 seed in the AFC. I don't know if that's going to be good enough for Patriots fans, but I guess we'll see.
I do want to say that they were the ones that I know, and then the ones that are public Patriots fans, they all thought they were going to win the Super Bowl and that they were the best team in the NFL. Bill Simmons had a mockery TikTok. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
It's such a good video.
He thought certain things were going to happen in the Super Bowl, and then it's video footage of plays in the Super Bowl of the exact opposite happening. Kevin Wildes of First Things First had his whole bit, and he got clowned the morning after. My brother thought he bought a jacket, a Patriots jacket that had all of the Super Bowl logos on them on the sleeves, which is really cool because there's 6 of them. And he said might have to take it to the tailor on Monday prior to the Super Bowl. Sadly, that did not pan out.
You save some money,
Yeah, he saved some capital there. So I do want to say that they have very high expectations, and so that is an interesting question of will they be disappointed if next year it is missing the postseason, which is I think it's certainly on the board, or finishing as a wild card team.
Cool. All right, my turn. Man, I haven't had to lead a segment in so long. This is foreign territory. Show notes. All right, here we go.
Should the Giants just disband the franchise?
Why?
I don't know.
They have their quarterback.
Okay.
All right.
Is that your take?
I guess we'll find out.
Okay.
The New York Giants had an interesting 2025 season. It was a lot of fun when it started. You had Jackson Dart come in and play. You had Cam Scatterboo and the fan favorite that he is. And I enjoyed watching them. And I don't like Jackson Dart because I'm a State fan and he's an Ole Miss guy. And so it was really hard to root for him. But they're a goofy pair in that backfield, and the memes and the tweets. Did you see the one that was they asked him, would you rather do, if you're on cam, are you gonna do kiss cam or chug a beer? And they're like, wait, am I doing it with Scatterboo? That was pretty funny. So they're a really fun duo. But before we get into the off season, I'm gonna talk about this last season. Team MVP for me was Brian Burns. He's a guy they brought in from Carolina, led the team in sacks, and then had as many as the next 4 guys combined. I think it was 15 sacks he had, and the next 4 guys combined for 15 sacks as well. So really dominant on that defensive line, which says a lot because that was a defensive line we were really intrigued by coming into the season. They have Dexter Lawrence on that defensive line. They've got Kevon Thibodeau and Abdul Carter on that defensive line. They just have a lot of really interesting pieces. and Brian Burns stood out. So I'm going to give him my team MVP. Do y'all disagree? Would you throw another name out there?
Raheem Nunez Roches. Remember that name?
I do remember that name.
That's a joking one.
I couldn't pull it up, but I was thinking like, what's the guy that we couldn't figure out who it was when we were doing the what's it called? The game.
We did it a Giants game.
Yeah,
I can't recall.
Yeah.
But he was 4th on the team in sacks. I thought he had a really good year. He had 3 sacks.
Okay.
huge year. Shout out him.
My unsung MVP, my unknown guy, Dane Belton. Do either of y'all know that name?
I did not know that name.
All right, so that's a good pull by me then. It's 2022 4th-round pick. He's kind of started to see more action. This is his 4th year. He saw 5 starts in 22, 2 in 23, 6 starts in 2024, and then he started 9 games in 2025. He was 2nd on the team in tackles, and he had the lowest missed tackle rate among teammates with 15-plus tackles. So a really consistent tackler. I believe he's a safety. So he's just a guy who's kind of gotten more opportunities and taken advantage of those opportunities and played really well, which is really good, and we'll get into why later. But now we can start talking about the offseason. They started their offseason by bringing in a new head coach. They bring in John Harbaugh from the Ravens, who spent 18 years at the Ravens, won a Super Bowl there, was a really successful head coach, and it felt weird for him to be fired, but I think it was kind of time because people were starting to question his lack of postseason success with Lamar Jackson. They'd been, I believe, I don't know if they ever made the 1 seed in the AFC, so I'm not going to say they did. They did? Okay.
They did, and then they lost to Derrick Henry and the Titans in round 1. That was the year Lamar, or round 2, I should say, the divisional round.
Cool.
Lamar was the MVP that year.
Yes.
And then Derrick Henry threw a touchdown pass to Corey Davis on what is one of my favorite playoff plays of all time.
That's wild. And so, people started to wonder, is Harbaugh wasting Lamar Jackson's prime? Lamar Jackson is a dynamic quarterback, one of the most, insane quarterbacks to watch play football. And so they move on, and that means the Giants are able to swoop in. I think he was one of the first head coaching hires of the cycle, and they they get their guy early on, which sets him up well for this season, right? Harbaugh's won a lot. He's won a lot of games in his 18 years at the Ravens. He brings in some other experienced guys. He brings in Matt Nagy from Kansas City, who Kansas City moved on to bring back Eric Bieniemy. But he's had a lot of success there at times. I believe was he the head coach of the Bears or was he the OC there?
He was head coach.
Head coach. So he's had some success with Mahomes.
He's the classic. The gif of his face after Cody Parkey double doinks is a very classic gif.
But that's their offensive coordinator for this season. Defensive coordinator is Denard Wilson, who was at Tennessee, and I believe has been the DC there for the past several years. And I was looking up on Wikipedia and hit the good thing they said about him was they credited Jeffrey Simmons 2 All-Star, not All-Star. I've got NBA in my head.
All-Pro.
All-Pro. Thank you. I have NBA in my brain now because it's time for the NBA. But his All-Pro appearances. It was he was the DC when Jeffrey Simmons made his 2 All-Pro appearances. And I was like, I don't know how much he had to do with that, but we'll put that in the Wikipedia bio. So that's their DC. That's their coaching staff for the upcoming season. A group of guys that have not worked together as far as I know. I don't think either of those guys have been on the Ravens staff. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. If you're a Ravens, not a Ravens fan. If you're a Giants fan, let us know what you're thinking about this staff and this hire and this group they brought together. Free agency, they do have some pieces who are due up for extensions or going to hit free agency, hit the open market. The first one I talk about is Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale, I think, stepped up kind of in a big way this year. Not big enough to have gotten team MVP over Brian Burns, and he's too big a name to be the unknown. Prior to this season, I think he would have been very deserving of an unknown, but he kind of made a name for himself. In the absence of Malik Neighbors, who goes down with an injury, ACL injury, Wan'Dale steps up and kind of becomes Jackson Dart's guy and has over 1,000 yards. He's, in my opinion, a guy I'm circling in red as bring back, especially.
Unlucky. He's not coming back.
Is he a commander?
We'll get to it later.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
You've got him going somewhere else in your other primers?
Possibly.
I think the Giants should try and bring him back, and I expect they will try to. It is weird because this is, like I said, a different coaching staff, and so maybe they come in and they have other guys they want to try and go get. Maybe Wan'Dale just doesn't do well in outgoing. I assume they have exit interviews, stuff like that, with new coaches coming in. So I'll be interested to see how that pans out. But if I were a Giants GM, I would try and bring back Wan'Dale. because he had a good repertoire with Jackson Dart this season. Jackson Dart is the guy that you spent a first-round pick on. You traded back into the first round for, correct?
Yeah.
They trade back? That's
Yeah,
what I
they
thought.
did.
Trade back in for him. So, like, this is a guy that you want to give opportunities. You don't want to do what the Chicago Bears did and not give Justin Fields weapons to succeed and then move on from him. Because while you may have been right, that's poor process. While you may have been right to move on from Justin Fields, it's poor process to invest a first-round pick in a quarterback and then not give him weapons to actually see if you were right. And so you're going to want to give Jackson Dart weapons. Malik Neighbors will be coming back from injury. And then so having a wide receiver 2 who played as a wide receiver 1 for a lot of this season, I think is a really good step in the right direction for the Giants. They're going to be losing an offensive guard and an offensive tackle. I believe I'm not going to. I think Illuminor is a right tackle.
Yes, he's the right tackle.
And then Van Roten is a left guard.
He's played right guard this year.
Right guard. Both those guys have played a lot of snaps for a lot of games for the Giants over the last 2 seasons. Van Roten has started all 34 games over the last 2 seasons. And then Illuminor started 31 games. I think I'm going to say let both of those. If I were the Giants, I would not be afraid of letting both those guys go because I think they should be addressing offensive line in the draft. I would have them take an offensive lineman early in the draft and then also in the second round as well, I believe. So we can go ahead. Do y'all have any other free agency stuff?
No,
There's
that's
some
good with
other. Are there any other names that I left off, JP?
Evan Neal is a former first-round pick
Yes.
for them who was a backup. He didn't play a single snap for them this year. Who's something of consideration. They have no reason to bring him back, but Russell Wilson is a free agent this coming off season.
Miami bound.
Jameis Winston is not a free agent, so they do have their backup quarterback and potentially the GOAT backup quarterback, although his win-loss record as a backup quarterback is not great. His vibes is through the roof. It may be Mount Rushmore level vibes in terms of what he can provide to a locker room.
Sure.
I think for the Wando one, it's such an interesting conversation of do you even consider taking the risk of letting Wando walk to save money because I don't know if you mentioned it, but they only have $5 million in cap space this coming year.
I did not mention it. That's a good point.
Yeah, so it's not a ton of money. They could restructure and make enough to re-sign Wandale. Or do you take the risk of waiting for the draft and hoping if Carnell Tate's their guy, Carnell Tate slides past Tennessee or even the Jets or someone trades up to them at 5. And then they could pair Carnell Tate with Malik Neighbors, and that's 2 guys on rookie contracts, and that saves you money to allow you to be able to spend that money in free agency somewhere else, potentially. Or is that too risky? Because the Titans very well could take Carnell Tate at 4, considering the weapons that Cam Ward has, although he loves them. They are not great. I do think that's a very interesting conversation
Remember when he
for
said
them
Calvin
to have.
Ridley was a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL?
Me?
No, when Cam
I'm sure
Ward
he
said
said
yes.
Traylon Burks was too.
did he say they were both top 5 guys or something like that?
I think
said
he had
it, like,
Restrepo just on the outside looking
Yeah.
in, too.
yeah, it was that was a wild Twitch stream. Or
I
Instagram
respect the
Live.
loyalty.
Yeah, that was a wild. And I think it was before he was drafted. He just knew he was, so he was like laying
Yes.
laying the groundwork. That was wild. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. It just you said something about it and it made me think of it.
Yeah, I wonder if the Wandale thing is. I think it's one of the key conversations for them in this offseason. Do you take that risk of, hoping a guy's there at 5? Like if they really like Jordan Tyson, maybe it's not even like a debate, and they could just know like, oh, we're gonna get Jordan Tyson or Carnell Tate at 5.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say if you do that, then you need to try and bring back those offensive linemen. That
Sure.
It depends on what you want to try and address through the draft, because whichever you don't address through the draft, you need to handle and either retain guys or go out and find their replacements. I don't think Van Roten and Illuminor had terrible seasons. I think Van Roten had 2 sacks allowed. I confess, after Scadaboo got hurt, I didn't watch a lot of Giants games, and so I didn't see a lot of eye tests for their offensive line to tell you how good it was, or to tell you if it was awful. I know Andrew Thomas is a fantastic offensive tackle and a fantastic left tackle. So if you're Giants fans and you think that you need a better offensive line to protect your guy at Jackson Dart, then so be it. I think you can draft, and that's where we can go and move to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive tackles are apparently creeping up mock drafts, and wide receivers are falling. This is according to guys like, I believe, Daniel Jeremiah has had Maui Noah go in the top 5.
Mel Kiper and Phil Yates have also both done that.
Yeah, so it's something that a month ago it was like 3 wide receivers in the top 10. As recently as this past week, I've seen mock drafts where no wide receivers go in the top 10, and it's 2 offensive tackles. So things are moving.
That same thing happened last year, too, and it kind of surprised us. That was more so it happened on draft night, and it surprised us. Will Campbell we thought was going to go high, but Kelvin Banks shocked me, obviously. But it was more so because I wanted Shador at that point. But also Tyler Booker at 12 to Dallas was kind of shocking.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, so
And that wasn't even an offensive tackle. I mean, if we saw a Vega creep up in that top 15 or a Pregnon going like at 22, 28, like because I believe right now he's in the 40s on the PFF big board. We have a lot to learn. The combine starts, I believe, Sunday. And then goes to the following, or maybe it's next Sunday. I'm not positive which it is. I saw someone say I'll be there from Sunday to the following Monday. I don't know.
I think it starts next week.
Okay. So it's coming up, and we'll learn a lot more about all these guys, and we'll learn a lot more about how teams and scouts view these guys. But my approach would be to bring back Wandale on that wide receiver 2 money because he's not going to get wide receiver 1 money anywhere.
I don't know. People may overpay.
Maybe. I mean, this is not a great free agent class. I think is the best free agent now Tyreek Hill or Mike Evans, right?
Yeah.
So those are the top wide receivers on the free agent market. So somebody might be willing to overpay, but if I were the Giants, I'm trying to bring back Wandale and then address offensive line in the draft, which it does work out well. I ran a mock draft earlier, and like I said, Maui Noah at 5 seems pretty reasonable, and then at 37 is another. So it's actually interesting. Carnell Tate and Maui Noah are both potentials at 5, and then at 37, Omar Cooper Jr. and Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon are also both options. So there's wide receiver and offensive line that fits in both of those slots at 5 and 37. So it kind of depends on what the Giants want to do with the guys they have on the roster and who they retain. That's how you're going to, I think, will tell us a lot about how they're going to draft.
Sure. It's such an interesting thing. Off the top of my head, I can't remember a lot of scenarios where it felt like a team had a true clear cut number 1 receiver, top 7, 8 receiver in the league, and then had the ability to take the best receiver in the draft that in a given draft. We've seen a lot of times those teams have those elite receivers and then they draft another guy later in like the late first or early second. I think of like Jordan Addison with the Vikings.
Sure.
I think of T. Higgins was the first pick of the second round for the Cincinnati Bengals, although he was a year before Jamar Chase. I wonder.
Are you saying you can't remember a time when a team with a top 8 wide receiver has had an opportunity?
Yeah.
Or has had like reasonable cause, I guess?
Both.
Okay. Because I bet I could go back and find a time where a team with a top 8 wide receiver has had a top 5 pick.
Mm-hmm.
But you would have never been like, oh, they should take a wide receiver. That's what would help them.
Yeah.
But with the Giants, it's like, it would make sense. I think that's what's probably going to be the more niche, like, unprecedented situation is like, I know they already have elite neighbors, but what would really help them out would be like a wide receiver 1 is a wide receiver 2. So, but that'd be interesting. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that more.
Where would you guys go? Personally, I would like to go offensive line if Jackson Dart's our guy, which who knows with Harbaugh if that's his guy. But I would go with the franchise tackle.
I'm going to go. I don't think he'd take the job if it wasn't his guy.
Sure.
Because he was the most coveted.
Yeah.
Like, go to the Dolphins and get top 10 pick. What are they, 11, I believe?
11.
Mm-hmm.
And then, maybe you start prepping and then you get your guy in the future. I don't think he's going to go somewhere that's already got so much invested in a guy. They traded up their picks. I don't know what picks they had to get rid of, so I'm going to pull up what they have left. I just don't think that he would have taken the job if he wasn't a fan of the guy that he expects to be coaching, or at least what he thinks. Yeah, so they don't have their 3rd round pick this year, which I don't know what they do have their 1st round. I don't know what they had to trade to get back up into that 1st round pick last year, but
might have been 2 seconds.
Yeah,
because Jalen Noel and the other Iowa State receiver were both 2nd round picks for Houston. It might have been 2 first.
I think it was a 2nd and a 3rd.
2 seconds.
It was a 2nd and a 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask if Me personally, I would go offensive line first, and then with how deep the wide receiver class is, go receiver second.
That's
But
probably where I'm at
Where
too.
would you guys subscribe?
Because I would go offensive line. Get one of those good tackles you can put on the other side of Andrew Thomas. I feel like the offensive line has been a bit of a sore spot for the Giants, even like the past 5 years. I mean, even like take like a guy like Evan Neal high, he doesn't pan out. Guys like that. Obviously, Andrew Thomas has worked out, but I feel like they've tried to fix it. It's maybe gotten a little better, but it's still not like a great group, and so I think they're in a good spot to like really shore it up and make it like an elite
Yeah.
room.
I would also love to see them. What did I say they had? They've got their first and their second and no third. That's kind of tough because the third round wide receivers are actually interesting right now on the PFF big board. So you could even go offensive line first and second round, go tackle, guard, and then in the third round they don't have their pick. Maybe they try and trade back up into it, or maybe they get somebody in the fourth. But Malachi Fields, I've actually seen somebody. Sam Monson actually has talked about him going in the first round. He loves Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame, and that'll be somebody to watch as we go into the NFL Combine. Other guys you could get, I mean, Zachariah Branch from Georgia, you could get him in the third round. And like I said, they don't have the third round pick, but it's a lot easier to get into the third round than it is the first round. And so if you can get offensive line in the first 2 rounds, then you can get that wide receiver to complement Malik Neighbors in the third or fourth round. So that's what my approach would be.
Sure. I think that is kind of against what the consensus of the public is right now.
Really?
I think that's how fans feel, how the early draft guys feel, where Carnell Tate's being mocked a ton to New York at 5. Maybe that could be one of the surprises of draft night, where they pass on Carnell Tate and it really is the offensive lineman going high once again. I wonder if that's the way that'll go for New York.
Yeah.
That's the way I'd personally go. I would love to add another offensive lineman to protect Jackson Dart because he only played 12 of the 17 games last year. Now he didn't get to start for the first 3 games because Russell Wilson started. But he missed 2 games where Jameis ended up having to play. He went to the tent. It felt like 75% of the games he was in the tent for something, which is his own damn fault because he's an idiot and dives into people for whatever reason. Has no worry about protecting himself. Force him to be protected by having a good offensive line is the way I would approach that.
Yeah. I think 100 times out of 100, I'm taking a first-round tackle and a second-round wide receiver as opposed to the other way around.
Sure.
I just feel like tackle, I mean, I guess it's the meme, right? It's would you rather have offensive line and no one downfield?
It's the age-old question.
Or no offensive line and an open guy downfield? I would rather have the offensive line and no one downfield, but I think that you can find somebody to get open downfield in the second or third round. I feel a lot less confident about your ability to play well in your first year as a second or third round tackle. 2026 goals. Mine is a little ambitious. It's very ambitious. I make the playoffs. John Harbaugh comes in and has made, I think he won the AFC North in like 6 of the last 8 years there or something. Maybe it was 6 of the last 9. He won the AFC North a lot. He's a very winning coach. And the NFC East is a weird division. It has been. This was the first year in the last 15 to 20 years that somebody won it back-to-back years. Is that right? The Eagles won it for the second year in a row, which hadn't happened in an eternity. The Commanders are in a weird spot where a lot of their roster is old.
We're back. Don't worry.
All right.
Don't sweat it.
Breaking news. The Commanders are back. Commanders have an old roster, and while they do have a fantastic quarterback in Jaden Daniels, they still have a lot of things to figure out. So we'll see how that goes for them. The Cowboys, if they fix the defense, they have a fantastic offense, but they've got to fix the defense. And then you got the Eagles, who there's questions about the coaching there and the chemistry there and just some of the weird locker room stuff and A.J. Brown. And the vibes were just not good in that building, even as they won the division this year. With, the offense not throwing the ball 1 week and then dropping, 380 yards through the air and, 4 touchdowns. It was just a weird year for the Eagles. So for the Giants, I think in this chaotic NFC East, this is not like the NFC North where every team you face is going to be like could win the division, any other division in football except maybe the Vikings. This is just a weird division to play in. You're gonna play a fourth place schedule. You're I believe, right? They had to have been the worst team.
Yeah, they play.
Commanders. I know y'all were not great.
We won 5. They won 4.
That's tough. Okay, I thought that's what I thought. So Giants finish 4th. You get to play a fourth place schedule. You'll get to play some cupcakes.
The 3 teams that are there are the Cleveland Browns, but then you have Tyler Shuck and the New Orleans Saints, and then sadly the Detroit Lions
That
also
is tough.
finishing at 4th.
That is tough.
Counts as one of them.
So
They will play the NFC West, so you got the Rams, Niners, Cardinals, Seahawks, and then they'll play the AFC South. So Houston,
I don't hate that.
the Indianapolis Colts, the Jaguars, and Cam Ward and the Titans.
I don't hate that. I think you could pick up 2 wins against the AFC South, and I think 1 win against the NFC West. I think you could beat the Cardinals. So that's 3, and then I think I'll give you the 3 wins from your fourth place schedule because that's 6 wins, and then you pick up 3 wins, 2 to 3 wins in your division. You're 8-9, 9-8. That's in position to all right, now you need one upset, and you're in the wild card. So that was my goal, is make the playoffs. Year 2 of your quarterback. You either are in this draft getting him the weapons or the offensive line that he needs. Defense, I think that they've got, like I said, fantastic pieces in the defensive line. Maybe there's some other spots they probably need to address, but I think this team is in a spot to take a step next year, take a step forward. Not a Patriots year 2 kind of leap under Drake May, but I think it's a step forward nonetheless.
You also got to hope Jackson Dart doesn't get himself killed. This, I'll be here in 5 months. Maybe I'll sing a different tune. I think this is one of the more ambitious, realistic goals we've heard through all these primers. The NFC East is a little goofy, but I think they have to rack up wins in the NFC East to make the playoffs. And all of the other 3 teams are going to be fighting like hell to get better. The Cowboys always are trying to get better. Doesn't always work. The Commanders are not happy with their 5-win season. You got to think the injury luck reverts a little bit positive their way. The Eagles still have a great roster, and even if there's some dissension and whatnot, still going to be good. In your calculations, you gave them 3 wins against the 4th place scheduled teams, but Tyler Shuck, man, he's ready to roll next season. The Lions, once again, they're not going in any sort of rebuild. They're looking to bounce back. I think it's just a really tall task to ask for the playoffs.
I think it's gonna be a really trendy pick, and I can see, some reasoning for it. And I don't think it's a realistic goal, but I don't hate it as a goal whatsoever. Sure. I would say for me, I would prefer a realistic goal of being, quit being in the same bubble and conversation as the New York Jets in terms of just being a disaster class.
Yeah.
Because since Tom Coughlin, they have been nothing but a disaster class. They've made the playoffs twice, but they've gone through head coaches in Bob McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge. Brian Dable had the 1 good year and then 2 awful years, or 3 awful years, I should say. You would hope with John Harbaugh that is going to be something that is not the case anymore. And I think that's why people may be, trending on the New York Giants this coming year. But I personally think they need to just worry about not being associated with being a New York disaster class and more so a New York team that is fun to watch. A lot of people are going to cheer for them, and they maybe could find their way into the postseason, and then maybe one day they get the postseason success thing, off their plate. Because I think of the New York Knicks and the Yankees are 2 of those teams where they are finding the postseason, and a lot of people are cheering for them. A lot of New York fans are cheering for them, and they're not viewed anymore as disaster classes. The Yankees never have been, but the Knicks, were a team that had to do that. Yeah. I think the Giants want to rejoin that class of Knicks, Yankees instead of the New York Jets and the Brooklyn Nets.
I'm looking for them to try and find 7 wins. It's a pretty good realistic goal. But even more than that, talking about them not being a disaster, they become the joke of, oh man, they're really terrible, and they win a couple games at the end of the season that don't matter when they really shouldn't win them. Maybe flip that a little bit, and it's okay. There's 4 weeks left in the regular season, and they have still alive to make the playoffs. Hey, we go 3-1 in these last 4 games. Yeah, we hit 9-8. Maybe we make the playoffs. Something kind of crazy like that. Instead of by week 10, it's kind of like, well, we suck. On to the next season.
Yeah. And JP, just to kind of emphasize what you said, since 2018, they've picked 2nd, 6th, 4th. Then they picked 20th and 21. Then they picked 5th, 24th, 6th, and 3rd. So that was what I did in the last 8 years, 6 top 10 picks.
I mean, they haven't won the division since they won the Super Bowl, and they've finished second twice, or 3 times in those 14 years. So in their division, they finished second in their division. They haven't won the division since they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and the playoff win they had was against the Vikings, who were 11-0 in one-possession games.
Daniel Jones, more playoff wins than
If man,
yes, Justin Herbert.
cool. Well, let's move on to the Jets. We'll finish off the.
hold on. I had something funny to say.
Go
You
ahead.
remember you said earlier that Drake May was the obvious MVP because he was second in MVP votes.
Yeah.
Do you remember who I made my team MVP for the Rams? It wasn't Matthew Stafford.
Puka Nacua?
No, it was the offensive line.
Oh yeah.
But I laid out. If you go back,
Yeah.
it was. I had some really good reasoning for it. I
Sure.
just thought it was funny sitting over here. You're like, Drake May is a team MVP, obviously, because second MVP voting. And I was like, who did I have for the Rams? Oh yeah, it was the offensive line. They allowed like 4 sacks or something all season,
Yeah.
like something ridiculous like that. And I think 2 of the guys that were the starter at the beginning of the season ended up not being the starters for the rest of the season. Like, it was a fantastic season from the offensive line.
Yeah.
It was a deserved team MVP.
Very deserved MVP. I do think you probably gave a caveat of like
I probably
Matthew
did.
Stafford
I
could very
probably
well
did.
win this award.
I probably did.
But let's move on to the Jets. Why don't we? 'Cause I'm a little
boy.
excited for this one. Before we get to the Jets offseason, as the graphic is labeled, I'm going to do a little reflection, name a 2025 team MVP, and name a 2025 unsung hero for this team. So, a couple ways to go with this 2025 MVP. Armand Mimbu, or their first round pick last year, was really, really good offensive tackle. They kind of have a really good kind of pairing there for the future. And their 2024 first-round draft pick, do you know how to pronounce his
Ole
name?
Fashanu.
Thank you. And then
Olu.
Fashanu is how you say his last name.
I
that's
believe-
all I know.
Yes.
We'll roll with Fashanu.
It is Fashanu.
And then Armand Mimbu on the other side. He could get it. Brees Hall
Is
held
that-
there against his will.
Is that the pair of offensive tackles with the hardest names to say in the NFL?
Maybe.
Probably. Brees Hall held against his will in New York. Broke the 1,000-yard rushing mark. Congrats to him.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, maybe Garrett Wilson only played 7 games, but he led the team in receiving. He could deserve some love. I'm going to give it to Garrett Wilson because I want to. It probably really should go to one of the other 2, but I think it's just so funny that he played 7 games, didn't even break 400 receiving yards, and led the team in receiving. Do you want to guess who was second on the team in receiving?
I just saw it, so.
Hold
Okay,
on, I
well,
haven't
let
seen it. I
Sanders
haven't seen
guess
it. I
then.
haven't even looked at the. I didn't even know who the other wide receivers
It's
are.
tough.
That would have been my guess because he was kind of a trendy waiver wire pick
Yes.
in the second half of the season.
Is it a tight end?
It is a tight end.
Oh, all right. Does he have?
I think I can give you the college he played at. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
LSU?
Mm-hmm.
It's not Thaddeus Moss.
No, it is not. Man, I really was excited about the undrafted free agency pickup by
yeah,
the
that was
Commanders
because
back
he
in
was
the day.
he's a tight end on a national championship
Yeah.
winning team. I don't know.
Mason Taylor.
Oh,
Do you want to
yeah,
guess
yeah,
who's
yeah.
third on the team in receiving?
It's got to be. Is it Brees Hall?
It is Brees Hall. Okay, fourth. This is actually a wide receiver.
Another.
The fourth on the team in receiving, another wide receiver. The only other wide receiver to break 300 yards receiving.
It's
Did
not.
it by 1 yard.
It's not the Ole Miss guy, is it? He's not there anymore.
No.
Elijah Moore, no.
Okay, I didn't think so. I have no idea.
I think this guy played at Texas.
Yeah.
Recently?
Yeah, like
Yes.
the past couple years.
Played against Michael Penix in the playoff game. Caught a touchdown in that game.
Isaiah Bond?
Nope. Fifth is a Alabama wide receiver.
I don't know. You're just
Okay.
going to have to give me
Adonai
names.
Mitchell is
Oh,
fourth
yep.
with
A.D. Mitchell.
301
Yes,
receiving
from the
yards.
Sauce Gardner trade. Wait. But were those 300 yards at the Jets or did someone from the...
You make a good point.
Colts.
Let me
I'll look.
Yeah, he'll
Because
look.
it'd be even funnier if all of them were with the Colts and then he got traded and just did nothing
Did
at the
nothing.
Jets.
Yeah, it
No, they were with the Jets.
Okay.
300.
congrats.
Good for him.
Shout at him. But yeah, It's a tough little group there.
Yeah.
Really no production from that room.
Poor Justin Fields
Joel,
just
any
has
other
never had the weapons around
Team
him.
MVP shout?
No.
No, I would have went. Yeah, I mean, I would have went with Brees Hall
Sure.
with the year he had. He wasn't necessarily that much of a fleece
Yeah.
in terms of a fantasy football pick this year.
Sure. For unsung hero of this team, I've elected not to give one because I
Wow.
just genuinely don't think this team is deserving.
Unprecedented right there.
Um,
Nobody?
just start thinking about what this team did this year.
Not
Maybe I should give it to the punter. He got a lot of work in.
not a single soul deserved unsung hero.
I think the unsung hero for this team is like the friends we made along the way.
I got one, and it's only because of the bold feature of team reference. Nick Folk,
Okay.
their kicker, led the league in field goal kicking percentage.
Shout
There
out
you
Nick
go.
Folk. There we
Players
go.
that
I love
qualified.
that.
He was 28 for 29.
I will say Nick Folk is a known name, but we'll
But yes.
give it to you. We'll give it to you. You know what? Kickers, any kicker except for the Cowboys kicker, Brandon Aubrey, would be an unknown kicker.
Can I disagree with you there?
Sure,
A lot of kickers are pretty well known.
that's fair.
You know them when they miss a kick that sells
This
your
is
team in the
also
game.
True.
Yeah.
All
All right. Those are your known as multiple guys. I agree with the Brees Hall. I think Brees Hall had a fantastic season, and then I like the Nick Folk
Sure.
shout. I do love. I need to start using that. You said it's Pro Football Reference. Like it's just like if they lead a stat, they're just
Well,
bolded.
he had one from Tuesday. What was it, Tuesday?
It was a punter for I forget which team, but he led the league in no, it was a punt returner
Yeah.
who led the league in it was Devin Duvernay. He led the league in punts returned.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
He never for catching. Just always going.
Good for him.
Yeah,
Moving
Devin
on.
Duvernay with the Bears.
Yeah. Moving on to the actual offseason. Head coach stays the same. It's still Aaron Glenn, though I wonder if he feels like his days are numbered a little bit. It was not an inspiring first season. It was his first year. Team was horrible. But that seat at least, kicked up a few degrees in terms of warmth. He's bringing new coordinators to try and fix some of the mistakes.
Big time guys too.
Frank Reich
Frank Reich. Yep.
coming in to be the DC. No, sorry, the OC.
Yep.
Was Stanford's interim head coach
Yeah.
last
Mhm.
season.
If-
He's a very respected name. Has been around a long time. It's a pretty big pickup in my opinion. And then the DC is Brian Duker. It's his first DC job. He's been around the block a lot of time spent as like position coaches for defensive groups. A lot of secondary work in particular. I imagine Aaron Glenn will call the plays still. So that's kind of part of the reason why you don't necessarily get a really big splashy hire at the DC position. You kind of instead get a younger guy that's going to be willing to be a first-time DC, learn the ropes of calling plays potentially, and then move on. So I'm fine with that move, even if it isn't once again the most splashy.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on those two hires before we move on?
The Frank Wright one is going to be interesting, especially considering who in the world is going to play offense for this team next year, which is something we'll get into here in a second.
They still got Brees Hall there kicking and screaming.
Yeah, but he is a guy who's had a.
They don't. He's a free agent.
You're right. Oh my gosh, they're gonna bring him back.
But they
They're
can
gonna offer
they
him
can
so mu-
franchise tag.
They're
him.
gonna or they're gonna
Franchise
do
tag
that.
him.
Yeah.
So he may
That's
be
wild.
forced under that, and they money talks. Like Myles Garrett wanted out, and then a couple extra zeros were added on there, and suddenly he's a Cleveland Brown again. Frank Wright has had a kind of a career that's been up and down. Some good years with like the Colts and Andrew Luck, but then he was hired on as the Panthers head coach and was fired very, very quickly in that tenure. Kind of revitalized, I guess, his coaching career with Stanford. Just got reps in, but Stanford was terrible at football.
He just needed enough time to pass between his failed head coaching job to
Yeah,
get another gig. It's
He
the
was only
classic.
brought on because Andrew Luck is,
Basically,
some
he asked
kind
for
of
a
advisor
favor.
role.
Yeah.
He's like the president
He's
of
the GM.
football, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
So I'm curious to see how that'll go for him, especially with what I said at the top of this statement was who in the world plays offense for them next year.
It's not good.
Who in the world plays offense for them is a good question, and one of the ways they can look to address that is the draft. So why don't we head there?
Let's do that.
Due to trading Sauce Gardner to the Colts, actually have two first-round draft picks. One at 2, one at 16, and they have a lot of needs. Let me tell you that. The problem here is we just talked about like who in the world is going to play offense for them. Well, their defense isn't good either. So like you kind of have to address that as well. I mean, they didn't have a single interception last season. They broke a record in that regard.
Yeah.
They need interior defensive line help. They need linebacker help. They need defensive back help. They desperately need another wide receiver. You just let Breece Hall, he's not on the team anymore. Maybe you need a running back. The offensive line's at least in pretty good shape, but who's going to play quarterback for you? You got to figure that out. So many ways for us to go. At 2, you do, though, however, like we know who's going to be on the board at this point at 2. Like Mendoza's going 1. So Jets can basically already make their decision like right now or in the months leading up. They don't have to make it on the spot on draft night. I personally am going Arvell Reese here, getting a stud blue chip defensive player that can kind of be a star of that defense for years to come. We just talked about how they need offensive help, but like, am I really going to take Cardinal Tate at 2?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not. I'm going to take the better player in my opinion. So that's kind of what I would do at 2. Before we get to 16, y'all agree or disagree?
I agree, but I am curious, and it'll be a talking point as we get closer and closer to the draft, and it'll be a talking point next week with the Combine. How quickly or will David Bailey move the needle there? Because some people already like him at 2. Like Mel Kiper
He's
likes him.
becoming very divisive.
With his physical traits and just what he was better statistically last year than Arvo Reese was for Texas Tech and the Red Raiders. Shout out CT. Than Ohio State and the Buckeyes. So I wonder if there will be some kind of debate there.
There definitely will be. It's not clear cut. I'm just very high on Arvo Reese. He's one of my guys, and like that's not a hot take. So many people are.
I'll tell you what I would like. I would like for this draft to be better so that the Jets can trade out.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I don't think anyone is going to trade up because I just don't think any of these guys at the top are better than the rest of the class. They are more elite. That there's a big enough drop-off between them and the next guy at their position, except maybe some team falls in love with like a Caleb Downs and like he's sitting there at 7 and they trade up from like 18 or 19. But there's not really, I don't think, going to be any market to trade out as number 2, which is unfortunate for the Jets because, like you said, they need so much.
Yep.
And this is just not a good year to trade out.
Well, at least they have 2 first-round draft picks, so let's get to the second one.
Yeah.
They're sitting at 16. So many needs once again. I think they're looking at, hey, who falls to us a little bit? Is Jordan Tyson there at 16? Do we like that move? Is Mekhi Lemon there at 16? And maybe we draft him. Or maybe Mansour Lane slid a little bit. He's at 16. Or we really like Jamad McCoy. We get a cornerback there. Maybe we love Peter Woods, for example. We go interior defensive line there. A lot of options. I personally would love for them to take wide receiver because I know they don't have quarterback figured out, and it probably won't get figured out this year. There's going to be a stopgap solution. But you just can't go through a repeat of what you did last season where, once again, the quarterbacks that played were not good, but you gave them really no route to success, especially after Garrett Wilson went down. You're just throwing to not good NFL wide receivers. I almost called them bums, and I was like, okay, they made the NFL. Like, I'm the guy sitting in the chair right now, so like I'm not going to call them that. Just, people that are not going to spend a long time and be productive in the NFL. So I would go wide receiver there, assuming the board shakes out in a favorable way.
Yeah.
Agree, disagree?
I agree.
I like it.
I don't hate that at all.
Perfect. Let's move on to free agency then.
Actually,
Go ahead. Yep.
to cap that off with the draft, this is a team that I think there's going to be some conversation for Ty Simpson there at 16 for whatever reason, but they have a ton of draft capital this year.
So much.
They have, they're one of the teams that is going to dictate the story of the draft in a way, because they have 4 picks inside the top 44, which is pretty kind of unheard of with their 2 first-round picks and then the 33rd and the 44th pick. And then also, people are going to try to say quarterback. They don't have to. They have 3 first-round picks next year in the Sauce Gardner trade and then in the Quinnen Williams Cowboys trade, including their own pick. And so they could be terrible and be in a spot to have Dante Moore or be in a spot where they can trade up and get the quarterback that they like next year. So it is not something that they have to address this year, and I think that will be missed by some people because no one looks at a draft class the following year prior to the current draft class, especially draft picks.
I think it's a great point. I should have mentioned it. I kind of alluded to it when I was saying they're going to go with the stopgap option this year.
Yeah.
I would still draft a quarterback.
I
just
would
maybe
too.
in like the 5th round or something like that. Just take a flyer. But you do have tons of draft capital. The roster's in a dire spot, but you're in a fantastic spot to upgrade it via draft, and then you have $80 million in cap space in free agency.
That's with $46 million in dead cap to Aaron Rodgers and Sauce Gardner.
Yep. Insane. Now the question is, how in the world do you spend it? Because there's just so many things to address. It's kind of like what we talked about with the Patriots in the preseason last year. Of while they have so much money, but like I guess time will tell if they allocated it right. Did they go too much volume shooting? Did they get real stars? So I'm not saying they're gonna do what the Patriots did and just hit on signee after signee. But what's the strategy? You gonna go volume? Or are you gonna try and go get a big name? You can be like, hey, Trey Hendrickson, you're a free agent. We can pay you more than anyone else can pay you. Come play here. Yeah, we probably won't be good next year, but in 2 years, you're still going to be good. We're going to be good. Or, you go more the, cheaper veteran route. In terms of positions, they really need a hammer in free agency besides everything kind of. You got to get someone to play quarterback, in my opinion. Bring in another quarterback to the roster. Okay, it's a bit of a sidebar. Do y'all think they just roll Justin Fields back out there again?
I think it's impossible because of the way I forget if it was the owner or the GM spoke about.
Okay, that's what
Justin.
I'm thinking.
I think that's almost impossible to do that. But they rolled him back out after he said that in the season. So
True.
It's on the board.
Do you just let Tyrod Taylor have a go at it because you may not find a better option? So maybe you don't really have to bring in a
Go get Trey Lance.
go. I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't really matter who you start. In my
It doesn't.
opinion.
You want to start somebody cheap, and you want to start him, and you don't want to have to go sign. You don't want to go sign Malik Willis.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be expensive. You're not in the time.
Well, unless you just love him that much and he's
Yeah.
your long-term
Yeah.
option.
But you don't want to go spend money. You don't want to go bring Trey Lance in on a 3 or 4 year deal. You want somebody to come in on you want a Jameis. What the Giants did with Jameis and Russell Wilson. That's the kind of thing you need to be doing. I think
Sure.
it's the Jets. And maybe you already have that in Tyrod. He is going to be a free agent, but maybe you bring him back. If I'm Tyrod, I don't know. I mean, I guess if you want to start, you do it,
Yeah, you
but
just
you're not
get-
going to win. And so maybe it's
He's just probably not going to be able to play somewhere where
Yeah,
he's going to win.
yeah.
So he has to make the choice of winning or playing. I think he's going to go playing.
Yeah.
Other free agency moves I like to see them make: bring in a wide receiver. You're probably going to draft one, at least one. Go get a guy. I think they maybe will try and go get Wan'Dale Robinson. Bring him cross town, something like that. Maybe they go get Romeo
it's the same
Doubs.
stadium. Bring him to the other
Yeah.
sideline.
Maybe they get Alec Pierce. You got to get a wide receiver and not just a bargain bin wide receiver. Don't bring back Josh Reynolds, who caught 15 passes for you. Gig 'em, love you, Josh Reynolds. It's not what you need. You can find other people to fill that void. Another name I want to point out that's kind of interesting, maybe Alex Anzalone comes here. He has a connection with Aaron Glenn. It's
Yeah.
become very apparent he's not going back to the Lions based on what he tweeted.
Yeah.
So
he was
maybe Aaron Glenn's like, yo, come here. You've played really well under me. This unit needs a lot of work. You can kind of be an emotional leader of it like you were for potentially a time in Detroit. I would really love that pairing. I would honestly kind of bank on that happening. The only caveat is if Alex Anzalone's like, yeah, no, I'm getting older. I want to go win. But they have a ton of money to play around with. It's going to be super interesting to see how they allocate it. Any thoughts?
It is interesting is just a great way to put it because it's such a precarious spot. There are so many holes. You don't necessarily have all the money to fill the holes right now with just $80 million, and like I said, 46 of that being dead cap to Rodgers and Sauce Gardner. But you will have it next year. Next year they already have $210 million available next year. They might sign a few guys to long-term deals, so maybe we're looking at $160 million, give or take, and that's an insane amount of money to be able to approach the following season. But then also, you mentioned at the top, is Aaron Glenn on the hot seat? Maybe kind of so. So wouldn't he want to try and go and win this year? And so he might make some big splash moves and unnecessary moves, it does feel like the Jets are just going to continue to be the Jets, which kind of sucks because they're in a spot where they don't have to be. They can add a bunch of, in this draft, blue chip guys with their second pick and their 16th pick. And then in next year's draft, 3 first-round picks, add 3 more blue chip guys. And this could just be the Detroit Lions because of the Aaron Glenn connection, where you are bad, and then, we just missed the postseason. Then it's turned around, and you have all of these draft picks that have hit and are making, valuable snaps for you, and are being valuable pieces for you. I think it's interesting. It's just such a great way to put it.
There's a reason I was really excited to do this one, because you go into it actually thinking like, oh, this can be the classic LOL Jets. They're cooked, They suck as a franchise, which we got our jokes off earlier on in, this segment. But they actually have great opportunity in front of them. Like, they have an unreal chance. The amount of wealth they have at their disposal, not in physical players on the roster, but in assets and available money, they could turn this thing around really quickly. They really could.
Yeah.
Now, it's the Jets. They may not push the right buttons. They're not known for pushing the right buttons. But the opportunity here is immense.
Yeah. Something I just want to say, and it's kind of led me to another thing. I feel like one of the Jets' issues has been they've been trying to address offensive line for like 6 years, and it has not really worked. In 2020, they spent a first-rounder, their only first-rounder, Mekhi Becton. He's no longer on the team. In 21, they spent a first-rounder on Elijah Vera-Tucker, who's now about to be a free agent. In 24, they spent a second-rounder. No, 23, they spent a second-rounder on Joe Tippmann. He's a center. He's still with the team. 24, they spent a first-rounder on Olu Fashanu. 25, they spent one on Amon Membu. So that's, 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and then 2 more first-round picks,
They
all
also
on offensive
drafted
line.
Francis Mauigoa's brother last year.
Oh.
That dude plays linebacker.
Interesting. But and yet we're looking at all these resources they poured into offensive line and not sitting here going, oh, yeah, they've got a really good offensive line for all the resources they poured into it and invested in it. Instead, it's like, they've got a couple young tackles. Like, hopefully that pans out. But, like,
I don't know. I love their tackle pairing. I won't lie. I
okay,
think
so
they're
we
in
can
great
say
shape.
so they've got a really good tackle pairing, but still, for the resources they've invested in it, you'd like to come away with
It's
more.
kind of it's really like they finally about damn time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, well, good job.
Congrats.
You've been spending first round picks for 6 years, and you finally got your tackles. Congrats. Now you've spent those 4, 3 of those other picks, and you don't have anything to show for it. That being said, the Jets just need to. I think the best way to kind of get around those misses they've been having is just draft the best player, which is I think why Arvell Reese is really good. If they weren't picking second, I would say take Caleb Downs. If they were picking at 6, I would say take Caleb Downs. Because I think Caleb Downs has a really good argument that he's the best player in the draft. He just plays safety. And so I would even throw out, you said they pick 17? Where do they pick?
16.
16? If he's sitting there at 10, do you take one of those second rounders you have and try and get up 6 spots? Because that's the thing is I think for the Jets you cannot miss because like you said this could be the Lions, but it will not be the Lions if they keep missing. And I think the best way to avoid that is just drafting really good guys. And you hit on Sauce Gardner and you moved on from him. You missed on Zach Wilson and he's not on the team anymore. So it's you just really need to hit on your guys going forward. And I think that Arvell Reese is a really, really good pick. But I think that the other really good pick, there's not going to be another guy at 16 who I think you feel like is a lock. But if there is one at 10, I wouldn't hate trading up for it and just get that guy because
sure, it depends on what it costs. At the end of the
exactly.
day.
But that's my thought. Is I think that the Jets just need to feel really good that they're going to hit on their players because that's the first step, right? We talked about in this new age of NFL free agency, it might be a lot harder to go and get a splash signee. And so you have to hit on those guys through the draft.
Jets.
Exactly, especially when you're the Jets.
He wants to go tear their ACL.
Exactly. So you have to make those moves in the draft. And in this draft where it's kind of a weird draft with not a lot of quarterback options, and no, there isn't a Aiden Hutchinson really or Trayvon Walker. There's no Chase Young, in my opinion. These guys are really good, but they are not quite as good as the Nick Bosa was coming out of college. They're just not. They're not Myles Garrett in 2017. It's not quite the same. So it's a little different. So I'll be interested to see how they navigate this draft and then next year's draft as well.
it feels like just day by day we continue to find things about the draft that are quirky and interesting, and man, this could be a nice 10-minute, 15-minute segment. And I think you just introduced another one, and that of the Jets maybe try to trade up and get into that top 10 somehow with their 16th pick and the 33rd pick, the start of
Yeah.
the second round, because we kind of know this right now, and it seems to be a little bit of consensus at this point that once you get past 10, it feels like there's going to be a drop off in terms of the quality of player when you go from,
I think it's probably 12 or 13 because Delane is sitting there at like 11-ish. And
I'm
so,
thinking like when you go from like Reuben Bain, David Bailey, Arvo Reese into Keldrick Falk
yes.
and Cassius
Yeah.
Howell, when you go from, Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson, and then you drop into
Denzel Boston
and Makai Lemon, Caleb Downs is, if he's not picked at 10 by the Cincinnati Bengals, one, they'll burn their building down and force them to move to a new stadium, and two, it would be a steal if wherever
Sure.
you went past 10. The Jets trading up to 10, I think, is an interesting conversation because you'd love to.
Not even necessarily, like, not that 10 is like the benchmark, but it's like somewhere in that,
Yeah.
like,
I think 10's
late-
a very reasonable
yeah.
one.
9, 10, maybe, like, if someone gets out of the top 10, like, if Reuben Bain does get to 11. Although if you take an Arvell Reese, it's tough to go back-to-back edge rushers.
Hey, Kansas City, I think, is in a spot where maybe they would like to be able to add 2 young talents instead of just one with the cap situation that it seems like they're going to be under for year after year because they're going to go, it looks like at this point, into a New Orleans Saints mode and kick the can down the road by moving the signing bonus. I think me personally with New Orleans, I wouldn't hate it, but like I also would love to just get one of the top 10 blue chip guys and add that piece to our team. So somewhere in that 8 to 10 mark is I definitely think a spot for maybe New York to re-trade up because it's going to be, I think, impossible to trade back from 2
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get the good value.
The last thing I'll say before I get to their 2026 goal. We've said all this, but then the scary thing is you got to figure out quarterback at some point.
Mhm.
But also don't rush it, which we've kind of already touched on. Like they're realistically scanning the market, scanning options. There's not a viable option to go get this season, so just wait. And the 2026 goal is establish if Aaron Glenn is the guy. Draft well, get talent on your team. Let us see the talent play out on the field. Uptick in production. Let the young guys play. Unfortunately, if all this pans out and you hit on your draft picks, you may win a couple too many games to have the first overall draft pick or second overall draft pick, which really hurts the thought of oh dang, we need to go get our QB. But maybe if you really just hit on those guys enough and hit on those free agency enough, you got the assets to move up to get your QB if you have to, right?
Yeah. And I was wrong this year, but next year the QB class is going to be really good. Next year's
sure.
QB class, like 2026's or 27's QB class is going to be great. I know it's all the same guys. I said we're going to be in 2026, but it's going to be good, I promise.
Yeah, just realistically the goal, don't be, a mockery of the NFL. Maybe get some people saying positive things about you for once, and we can go from there. And then I actually have a question, but we can end this segment before it if we want.
Cool.
So this guy up on this thing you have pulled up, Quantez Stiggers, didn't play in college. Is he just international?
Where can you tell me what
He's
year?
middle. He's a white line in 2024, 5th round pick.
5th round pick. Quantez Stiggers, none. Yeah. I know the NFL has an international, NFL. I forget what it's called. Is it just NFL International? It's the Eagles tackle, not Lane Johnson, but the other one.
Jordan Mailata.
Jordan Mailata came through that program. He was an international. I think he was a rugby player. So they do have guys, that come internationally. There's a couple punters that have done it. Maybe a linebacker somewhere. So I bet that's what he is. I couldn't say for certain. I don't know Quantez Stiggers. I don't know where he'd be from.
No idea. Cool. That's all I had to ask. I should have let y'all give any thoughts on the goal.
Nah, it's fine.
I think he had a pick this year.
The name sounds mildly familiar. It probably
It
because I've
does
seen the name.
not.
I've seen the name once before, and it's Quantez Stiggers. So
Yeah.
you're not that name's sticking
That
with
does
you.
stand out. Can't believe he wasn't your unknown MVP.
Oh, why did I say he had a pick? This
Yeah,
team
no
didn't
one
have
had
a
any
pick.
picks this season.
No,
Maybe-
I forgot
he
they
had
didn't
a
have any
pass
picks.
deflection.
He had 2 fumble recoveries.
Hey.
I know I'm thinking of a play he had on red zone where he had a fumble recovery.
Well, there you go. There's your unknown MVP, although it will not be on the full video because we already ended that segment.
He was tied with 2 other players for fumble recoveries. Would you like to name those 2 players?
He was tied with 2 other Will McDonald.
Did Quinnen Williams have 2 before he left?
No, and no.
Is it like anyone I'm gonna know?
Yes, but yes.
Sauce Gardner.
No.
I don't know anybody else on that team.
I'll give you a hint. They weren't playing defense.
I was about to say, is it like did Adonai Mitchell have 2?
No.
Yeah, he
Justin
wasn't there long
Fields.
enough.
Did he
No.
dive on the ball? Was it one of the tackles?
No.
Was it
Gar-
Brees
did-
Hall?
Yes.
Did
Okay.
Garrett Wilson get a couple in the first couple games?
No.
Okay.
What's the other position?
John Mechie got 2.
He played quarterback.
Quarterback.
Uh,
Tyrod Taylor.
No.
Oh no,
Zach
Brady
Wilson?
Cook.
Brady Cook.
Brady Cook had 2 fumble recoveries. Put that man on defense. He's got a nose for the football. That's wild.
That's diabolical.
That's
Yeah.
funny. All right. Next up, Philadelphia Eagles. Man, I don't like the Philadelphia Eagles, but it's just because of Don Staley. Oh, we can wait. JP, what? Oh, he's a little toasty. He's got to take his hoodie off over there. I'm ready for the draft. We got to do a mock draft. If we do, we can. Do we want to do Monday, Thursday next week? Is that when we want to start?
Sure.
Okay. Starting next week, our show will be Monday, Thursday, which is honestly perfect because that means Monday we can do mock draft Monday.
It just rolls off the tongue.
It just works out as, there's no other way of swinging that for it to be Tuesday. But I'll go to start the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles had an odd 2026 season. Some of the in-house drama around A.J. Brown, around that offense, and its hot and cold manner. 1 week, the passing game was just non-existent, and people would be asking why, and it was we would theorize, well, it's because they didn't need to use the passing game, and then when it felt like they did need to, they would have a game with a couple passing touchdowns and 300 plus yards, but it never felt right. It was just odd to watch, especially after how dynamic it had been the year before with Saquon Barkley and his backwards hurdles and his 2,000 scrimmage yards, and A.J. Brown having a fantastic season. It was an odd season. I'll list out the MVPs, and then we'll talk about the offseason, right? Because this is a primer. We want to talk about what the offseason will look like and what 2027 will look like. But first, got to give the shout-out to the guys who've earned it. Team MVP is Jordan Mailata. We were actually just talking about him a minute ago. 2 sacks allowed. That offensive line, not quite as elite as it was last year, or at least not in the same manner. Last year, it kind of just dominated, especially in the short game. They could have whatever they wanted and anything 2 yards or less. And while maybe they did this year, it wasn't as high profile. It wasn't in the Super Bowl on display. The false starts were started calling a little bit more often, not with regularity by any means, but it didn't feel quite the same as last year. And that's not necessarily to take anything away from the offensive line, but to say that last year it was just executed at perfection, and this year it just wasn't perfection. But still a fantastic season from Jordan Mailata. Would y'all say anything else for MVP?
That's fine for me. I'm always willing to give offensive linemen some credit, and it definitely just like running through the offensive guys. It's like no one on the offense skill position wise is what I meant had like a career year and did anything crazy because of how lackluster the offense was.
Yeah, and then defensively, I mean, some of the secondary guys had really good years, but I just went with more Mailata over them.
Mailata's fine. Cromie would have said Jalen Hurts, so I'm going to say Jalen Hurts for him.
Sure.
Appreciate that. I'm sure Cromie appreciates that.
Jalen Hurts was a Pro Bowler, by the way, so.
Yep, that means a lot.
Yeah, that does mean a lot.
As
I
was
gotta
Shedeur
go.
Sanders.
I gotta go revise my Cleveland Browns team MVP and give it to Shedeur over Myles Garrett.
Yeah. My unknown MVP, I went with Jalix Hunt. Do y'all know that name?
No.
Dude, we're kind of good. We're kind of on a roll. I feel like the first couple we did
He plays
these we
cornerback
did.
though.
No.
No.
Dang, that's
He
just
was-
such a good cornerback name though.
Yes, he was an edge rusher.
That works fine,
Led
too.
the team in sacks with 7, which it just feels, the Eagles are just weird because you win that Super Bowl and you feel really good about the way you've backfilled, the talent you've brought in, and it just doesn't work out quite the way you expect it to. Nolan Smith misses a lot of time, and that's why Jalen Hunt had the opportunity to play, is because Nolan Smith was recovering from that injury, and he played well, and then Nolan Smith comes back, but it was just a weird season for the Eagles, but we're not going to talk about that anymore.
He had 3 interceptions too.
Oh,
to
well,
go with the
I didn't even
6
see that
or the
stat.
7
I was just
sacks.
looking at his rushing stats. And I feel bad for just saying the Eagles had a weird season, but I don't really know.
They
had
did.
a weird season.
They had
Yeah,
a weird season. You're
it's
good
just-
We
with
talked
that.
about it every week.
Yeah, I
We
don't.
couldn't escape it.
I don't know how to give
to,
better
to
analysis.
piggyback on it, like where was the normal like weeks for them, back-to-back weeks for them?
we
there,
like
there
quad-
really wasn't one.
We
Yeah.
like quadruple jeopardied them.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
didn't just
JP
do
was
double
like,
jeopardy.
no
Well,
more questions, Your Honor.
After they started 4-0, I was like, okay, we're good. Yeah, no more questions.
Yeah, this
Your
team
Honor.
is
And
just on its way back to the Super Bowl.
they fell apart. I mean, you had the Chargers game, which watching that on Monsters Inc. mode was. I mean, that was an ideal game for Monsters Inc. because
Sure.
Sully and Mike Wazowski ended up with, a ton of interceptions. Sully carried for the Chargers and ends up having a ton of interceptions in that game. But you have that game. You have the 10-7 primetime win against the Packers, followed by the 16-9 primetime win against the Lions, followed by 2 head-scratching losses of the Dallas Cowboys completing if I'm not mistaken, it was a 21-point comeback,
Yup.
and then the Chicago Bears shocking them on Black Friday. Like it was a weird season.
Yeah.
That is the perfect description of it.
Yep. All right. Well, after the weird season and the MVPs that we've named, and they earned it, 2 great players. And I'm interested to see what Jalen Hunt. I believe he might be a free agent. We can talk about that more in the free agents period, but I could be wrong. Coaching, they bring back Nick Sirianni, who after the weird season, I would say is another weird season away from like the hot seat and or getting fired. I think that like people were having that discussion this season just because the locker room didn't seem to be entirely healthy. The chemistry wasn't there with A.J. Brown. Vic Fangio is still the DC there, and I think he has a talent there. I love what Howie Roseman has done as far as roster construction over the last 5 to 8 years. Kevin Patullo is the OC there. He's back for year 2, which I'm kind of right because this is year 2 for him
at this point, which
So-
is kind of shocking.
Yeah, especially after that little kid said on the news that he was talking about Patullo, right? Or
Yeah.
was it? Yeah, he was talking about Patullo and how much he wanted him fired. But he will be back for year 2. Free agency. Jalen Phillips is a guy they brought in. They traded from Miami for a half a season of production. Played 9 games and recorded the second fewest sacks he has in his career to this point. I believe in his 5-year career. 5 sacks this season. Not exactly what you want to see on your return on investment when you're trading for a guy to, halfway through a season. Like, this is a traditional, like, all right, we're in position to win. Let's go get a missing piece. You bring in a guy who's had, 10-plus sacks multiple times in his career, and he finishes out the season with 5. Is not what you want. Nakobe Dean is another potential free agent. Missed the first 6 weeks of the season. Reed Blankenship is a free agent. He's a safety. He's one of the exciting whites they have back there, him and Cooper DeJean. And then another big free agent is Dallas Goedert. What are your thoughts on these free agents? Are there any guys you want to see them return, priorities? I put specifically for Dallas Goedert, he was the only one I wrote like a definitive let him walk, just because I like what they could do to replace him in the draft. But what are y'all's thoughts there?
I'm fine to let him walk. I'm a bit of a Reed Blankenship guy. I'd kind of like to be able to bring him back. Personally, he was the name that stuck out to me the most as like, I'd want him back.
Yeah.
But they're all like fine pieces. The biggest thing is going to be their cost ratchets up. It's already a pretty expensive roster.
Yeah.
What can you make happen?
And behind Nakobe Dean, they already have Jahad Campbell, who they spent a first-rounder on this year.
Yep.
So that feels like a guy they're going to let go. Jalen Phillips, I don't know if he had the season in Philly that they would want him to sign him to an extension or to bring him
Maybe
back.
means he's cheaper.
He would be cheaper. But there's going to be disagreement because his camp is going to be like, well, look at what I did my first 3 or 4 years, and they're going to be like, yeah, well, look what you did this year. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out. But what are your thoughts, JP?
I think you prioritize Reed Blankenship because I do think he's been kind of a cornerstone for your defense. That's been really one of the largest parts of your success over the past 3 or 4 seasons has been him there on the back line, now going into what would be his 5th year. And I just don't think you want to, isolate Makuba, who was your second-round pick last year, as, the lead guy in the deep safety. You got 2 great corners in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. I wouldn't isolate the back end because you can have elite corners, but then if you're not great in the back end, they can very easily get beat over the top, and you can, if you play zone coverage, like a cover 2, and those 2 corners are up covering the flat, it then puts those 2 deep corners on islands. And Makuba dealt with injuries this year, so he didn't get as much development as you'd hope. I think you prioritize Reed. I don't hate letting Dallas Goedert walk. I only hesitate on that because he is such a... If, A.J. Brown's going to be traded, which maybe he is, maybe isn't, he is such a safety blanket is a way to put it, or, he's a guy that Hurts goes to a lot. If there was any player he would love, Jalen would love to throw a little 1-yard shovel pass to, it's Dallas Goedert, who I think he had 3 touchdowns on that little stupid shovel pass, which I say it's stupid because I've been a Saquon Barkley fantasy owner the last 2 years, and there's nothing more frustrating than the tush push on the 1-yard line and the shovel pass on the 1-yard line as a Saquon Barkley fantasy owner. So I don't know necessarily how easily they'll move off Dallas Goedert, especially when the rest of their tight ends are also free agents. But it sounds like you got a fix for that in the draft.
Yeah. Anything on the free agency? All right. We can move to the draft. My fix for that, it's a super popular pick, at least from what I've seen. It's Kenyon Sadiq.
Mm-hmm.
I will be interested to see if he gets this far as things kind of progress. But first, before I get in the rest of the draft, I did want to shout out Howie Roseman again. He's kind of he's my favorite GM. I love the way he's constructed the Eagles roster and the way they have fortunately found themselves in positions to draft. They haven't needed to draft for a need in a long time, and they've done a really good job of spreading out the resources everywhere. Drafting Devontae Smith, I believe when they already had A.J. Brown. No, that would be right. It would have been after. But just bringing in multiple wide receivers, backfilling linebackers, hitting on corners in back-to-back rounds in that 2023 class with Dejan and Quinyon Mitchell. So it's just I love Howie Roseman. He's actually in my in our keeper league where I have an awful team. He's my logo, just a picture of him because I'm trying to build my team in the same way he built the Eagles. So he's going to be managing this draft. He'll be the GM as he has been for a while. But in the first round, Kenyon Sadiq is the guy I would love to get at 23. Will he be there? I think we'll know with a lot more certainty as we get closer.
Yeah,
to
the only
draft.
place he's been linked so far that I've seen is Tampa Bay at 15.
Sure.
Outside of that, I haven't really seen
The
Chargers at
Sadiq leaked anywhere. I haven't seen the Chargers one.
sent
it
it
was
in-
Daniel Jeremiah
like-
mock draft, which
Well,
I personally
you're
didn't
right.
love, but we don't have to get into that. And the Chargers pick it.
22 right before him.
Okay, so it might. So if Daniel Jeremiah, who I believe that was a predictive mock draft and not what he would do, if he were to be right, which apparently his 2.0 mock draft has been very accurate. His NFL mock draft 2.0, if you go back and look at previous years, is very accurate.
He knows his stuff.
And his later ones are not as accurate, so you just trust the 2.0.
He starts overthinking it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, all that to say, Sadiq would be my guy here, which is why I'm okay to let Dallas Goedert walk.
Real quick sidebar: who is tight end 2 in this class? I'm trying to think of name.
I
Doesn't
think
immediately
it's
come to mind.
it's the Vandy guy, Stowers. I
Yeah,
believe.
Eli Stowers, and then you're getting into the
Max Clare from Ohio State.
Yes.
Injuries from Texas, or did he not declare?
Then you have the Texas Tech,
Jack Injuries, yeah.
Josh Cuevas.
Old Man Cuevas, Texas Tech tight end. I forgot his name, and then there's the Schubert,
I'm just gonna-
the other tight end who was also a transfer, who I really liked this coming year.
I feel like did he also go
He went
to
to a
Ohio
red,
State?
no, he went to a red school, if I'm not mistaken.
A red school.
Yeah.
Well, shout out
Michael
Michael
Oh, I
Trigg,
do love
yep.
Michael Trigg.
Yep.
Justin Jolly. Justin Jolly went
I'm
to
trying to-
NC State, which is like kind of a red school. I
I
don't know, if that's
don't know
who
who
you're
you're talking about,
Oh, the
JP.
Texas
Shout out
Tech
Nate
dude
Borkshire.
isn't even on there. Tanner,
Tanner Koziol.
was it Tanner? It might have been Tanner Koziol.
Shout out the Houston Cougars.
Yeah, but
You gotta play in the
he's
cage.
pretty deep down there at that point.
Sidhu
Sidhu
Traore.
Traore.
Yep.
Um,
Dog. But yeah, that's
So
tight
all
end
that said,
2
Kenyon
is
Sadiq is in a tier of his own.
yes, it's Kenyon Sadiq and then Eli Stowers is tight end 2 in this class.
Yep.
Who I don't mind Eli Stowers. Like maybe if you do get sniped and you missed on Sadiq, you try and get Stowers in the second round. I wouldn't hate that because I do like Stowers a lot as well. Second round, I've got defense. Just continuing to fill there. It'll depend on what you do with AJ Brown, right? If you don't get AJ Brown, maybe you're looking at one of the Indiana wide receivers. I don't know why I put the emphasis the way I just did there, but one of the Indiana wide receivers.
The Ohio State University. That's the vibes it gave off.
Yeah. If you decide to move on from AJ Brown, you can look at one of them.
We have them mocked to like 25 of the 32 teams at this point. Though,
We do.
so.
They're just so they're
They are
so
fun.
fun to mock,
They are.
dude. I love both of them. I'm gonna throw out Malachi Fields again from Notre Dame. I'm just going with the same old names, and I'm also gonna throw out Romello Height from Texas Tech and D'Angelo Pons from Indiana. In the third round at 68, I've got Anthony Lucas, an edge rusher from USC, and then in the fourth round, Billy Schrouth, I believe, is a guard. He did not allow any sacks in 7 games this year, and then he allowed 1 in 12 games last year. Plays at Notre Dame. So offensive lineman. That's just some mock drafts that I put together this afternoon or this morning, getting ready. But I will leave. I'll leave the real mock draft, the real draft, up to Howie Roseman, the legend, as he figures that out. But we'll definitely talk about more Eagles mock drafts as we get closer. Maybe they're another team that looks to move up into that top 10 range. A team that feels like, hear me out, a wide receiver, all right? You move on from A.J. Brown, and you like your offensive line and the way that you've brought in the guys to replace. Because, no, I don't think Lane Johnson is retiring yet, right? He's
He
not
announced
done.
today he's coming back.
Yeah, so
He's
like,
got 2 seasons of contract. He's
yeah,
under
so
2.
you're not there's not any absolute needs on offensive line right now. You've got Saquon, you've got Hurts, you've already invested a lot in defense. You bring back Reed Blankenship, you bring back is it Nakobe Dean or is it the other one that's a free agent? I can't remember.
Kobe Dean's a free agent.
Yeah, I get the two Georgia linebackers mixed up. So say you bring back Nakobe Dean, yeah, Nolan Smith is the other one. I got the two of them mixed up. But you bring back Nakobe Dean. All right, so now Jordan Tyson is sitting there at 12 or 13 or 14, and you're picking at 23. Do you try and go up 10 spots to get that wide receiver? Because I don't think I want Devontae Smith playing wide receiver 1 with wide receiver 2 being who would that be?
I mean, last year was Jahan Dotson.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I mean, he's a free agent, so you're talking about...
I mean, Johnny Wilson is a FSU legend.
Yeah. So that's the only reason I throw that
Can't
out there.
believe he's
Is
listed as a wide receiver.
if Matt...
Isn't he like 6'6"?
He's
like
6. No, he's
2?
6'8".
6'8", yeah,
Wow.
he's massive.
Wow. So if that happens, or if Mekhi Lemon is sitting there at 16, do you try and move up? So like, I'm not saying they should try and get to like 8, but if there's a wide receiver sitting there that they think could come in, and if they do decide AJ Brown is not in the future for the Philadelphia Eagles, like,
I mean, I can get talked into almost any trade up. I just
Yeah.
don't feel like it's Howie Roseman.
Yeah,
MO.
I was just gonna say precedent.
Yeah.
Says that's pretty unlikely, but
So that's kind of where my pushback would
yeah,
be.
that's
But
fair.
he also is a guy that we've lauded for being really proactive and for like making really good savvy moves. And so maybe even though it's not precedent, I don't think it's his MO. Maybe he's just lying.
His MO is making the right decision.
Yeah,
So
correct.
maybe he
He's-
decides that the right decision is
He's
to
lying
trade
in
up.
the weeds, waiting. I guess.
Yeah.
it's just you're in a championship window, and to back up the trade up take, I do think maybe it is him realizing that they don't want to waste this championship window that they feel like they have, and so maybe you go up and try to get Jalen Hurts a weapon while also trading A.J. Brown.
All right. 2026 goal, figure out the offensive inconsistencies, and just kind of try and get back to that same, like I said, the execution in 2024 was elite offensively from the offensive line. The quarterback to wide receiver connections were incredible. Saquon Barkley was otherworldly. So try and get back closer to that. I don't think you're going to get back to that. I think that was just kind of an absurd season. But a lot of the pieces are the same, so you want to try and get close to that. Especially if you bring Dallas Goedert back and you've got the check downs, you've got the running game. If AJ Brown figures it out, maybe he needs an extension, maybe more money will make him happy. Who knows? Try and get back to that. Try and figure something out. You want to have 100% trust in your offensive coordinator after this season, or fire him and go find someone you do have trust in, who you think can lead the team.
For more, I don't necessarily disagree with those goals. For more of a like concrete goal, a little more like black and white, win the division.
Yeah.
You've now done it back-to-back years. We broke the streak we were talking about. It kind of seems like it's the standard this current group has set for themselves. And, I maybe am not as low in the division as you are. We didn't necessarily talk, tons about it. But, like, this division has no team where I'm like, oh, man, I know they're going to be really good. Or, like, oh, I'm really scared of them. I think they're really going to, like, be a tough challenge to the Eagles. I mean, they're going to try. Like, all the other three teams in the division are, like, ready to start trying to win. Or have already, been kind of winning, right? But it's not the NFC North, I guess, where it's like I wonder what their odds are. I feel like
think they're up,
go
JP. If you go to the offshore site, I believe they are up now.
I feel like they're probably a pretty clear favorite for this division, so I feel like that's a pretty fair goal.
Yeah, that's fair. I think they are favorites. I mean, I was looking at it. There's some teams that you might not expect to be favorites, but I do feel pretty comfortable saying that the Eagles are going to be favorites. It's not going to be the Commanders or the Giants, obviously. And I just don't think the Cowboys are going to be favorites currently, given that they still haven't made any moves.
I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you, I guarantee it's Philly.
Yeah, I was just trying to fill some space while you looked it up.
I'm not going to look it up.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, it's the Eagles then. Cool.
Eagles
They
minus.
According to sources.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're probably they might be like 50-50 favorites.
Yeah. So that seems like a very realistic goal. Just
Sure.
as favorites, win your division.
Anything to add, JP, or are we ready to get on to the Seahawks?
No, nothing else to add.
The Super Bowl champions, the
Yeah.
Seattle Seahawks.
The founder of the 12th man.
Inaccurate. I did some research. We were there first.
Up for debate. The Seattle Seahawks took home the Super Bowl trophy, the Lombardi trophy, as we all expected in the preseason.
Yep.
At least I did. These two gentlemen to my left did not have this team making the postseason. I did have them making the postseason.
Since when did have them making the postseason and taking home the Lombardi trophy mean the same thing?
It's a whole lot better than what I said. I said they don't have Sam Darnold doesn't have a Justin Jefferson to throw to. I maybe insinuated that maybe we could see Jalen Milroe starting some games at some point.
I said in the comments of one of our videos reacting to someone, Sam Darnold did all these things last year, but he had Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. He doesn't have that anymore.
I mean,
it just turns out he has JSN, who might be freaking better. Who knows?
Yeah, so
we both look like bozos, but I still won't let JP
Seahawks
get
guy,
away with his. I had them winning though.
I mean, he listens to the Seahawks radio.
I'm the
come
known
on now.
Seahawks guy here.
Look what's hanging behind him.
Big Seattle guy. Listen to Seattle radio. Listen to it a ton for, this primer for the off season. They won the Super Bowl, and a huge congrats to them. And now it has become a priority for Seattle and that fan base and the radio network, media at large, to not have what happened last time happen again. And that is win the Super Bowl, return back to some form, and then have a devastating loss that tears apart the franchise, and then they never really recover until eventually they have finally recovered with winning the Super Bowl this past season. Now that occurrence is largely, in my opinion, predicated on the Malcolm Butler play, one play changing the course of their entire franchise and leading to significant turmoil between the Legion of Boom, Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch. You can continue to go down the list. I don't foresee a similar event occurring for Seattle, but they would like to maximize what they feel like is a championship window with a young head coach, a defense that's aging but is going to be very, very good again next year, and Sam Darnold, who has kind of revitalized his career in the last 2 seasons. For MVP this year, it is not the Super Bowl MVP, Kenneth Walker, but it is JSN. I don't think there's much of a debate there. I do, though, want to say that, their defense deserves an enormous shout because they were the best defense in football
100%.
by my estimation. And they had 4 guys with 6 or more sacks, those being Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, Nwosu, and DeMarcus Lawrence. They also had 2 elite corners in Tariq Woolen and Devon Witherspoon, 3 pretty good safeties in Julian Love and Kobe Bryant, and then the rookie Nick Emanwari, who was a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro, a second-teamer, if I'm not mistaken, who played a lot of nickel for them. He was excellent this year. In the middle with their Mike and Ernest Jones, and then Drake Thomas, who had a very, very good year. This was just a top to bottom, an excellent, excellent defense, and they don't lose a ton of pieces going into next year. So it feels like this team should be, in line to potentially repeat next year. Do y'all have a different MVP than JSN?
Nope, he's fully deserving.
No.
But shout out the defense. I'll reiterate.
Yeah, I'm just great. I have him in a keeper league. Huge. Oh, it's so nice. I'm very grateful for JSN. So keep it up, big guy.
For unsung hero, I went with a name that I already mentioned. And it's hard to find an unsung hero on a team that won the Super Bowl. And, we did the deep dive that we did on this team.
Yeah.
And we diagnosed, every single piece of the game. And so my unsung would be Drake Thomas, because I don't think many people knew his name, and many people may not still know his name, even after the season that he had. And he was second on the team in tackles with 96. He had 10 TFLs. He had a pick this year. He had a fumble recovery as well. This is a guy who, it felt like it was a one-man crew back there with Ennis Jones in terms of your Mike linebackers. But Drake Thomas really had an excellent season. He's a free agent this coming year, so it's a priority to re-sign him. Any other names y'all wanted to give a shout as potentially unsungs?
No, I'm good with that.
Yeah, this is a team that was very, very well-known because they were the best team in the National Football League and thus won the Super Bowl.
Offensive line, I feel like I know the majority of their offensive line just because we have Charles Cross, so I know their offensive line decently well.
Gray Zabel, we talked about him a lot in the pre-draft process.
Abrams or Abraham, their other tackle.
Abraham Lucas,
thank you. I've talked about him, or we've talked about him just because he plays across from Cross.
The guy I would have maybe mentioned would have been Gray Zabel.
Yeah.
But him being a first-round pick,
a
little less unsung. But the year he had, I thought he had an incredible year. This is a guy who, after they drafted him, Seattle radio thought he was going to be potentially the greatest Seattle offensive lineman in the history of their franchise. And then they interviewed him, and they thought he was the greatest guy they've ever met in their entire life. And then as we got to the season, it was questions of whether or not the dude was even going to be able to start for the team. Then he has the year he had. For context, the dude he's already an 80-plus overall in Madden, which I think is it's a good context for, especially on offensive linemen. It's hard to put value on how good players are. So we use Madden as our benchmark here at Technical Foul. Little joking, of course. We more so use PFF. But I thought maybe he could get a little unsung shout. Moving into the next season, because unfortunately we don't celebrate Super Bowls long enough, and it really only lasts about a week before you have to start talking about the next season, because that's the reality. This team is behind schedule.
Yep.
They are one of 2 teams that played as long as they did. The regular season ended 5 weeks prior to their Super Bowl victory. And so teams are a month and an extra week ahead of Seattle in terms of starting their offseason. This team had to make some changes because Clint Kubiak ended up taking the head coaching job at the Las Vegas Raiders. They, to replace him, will add now former Titans coach, tight end coach of the San Francisco 49ers, Brian Fleury. He will replace him as the new OC. It's expected that he's going to call plays as well. So we're looking at kind of a Kyle Shanahan offense, which there's a little bit of a difference between that and a Kubiak offense. I don't feel like getting into all the X's and O's why, but
Sure.
there will be a little bit of difference in scheme. One of kind of the hot stories that's kind of happened in the last week is Thomas Hammock, Northern Illinois head coach, who was in Starkville this year for a 2025 Blake Shapen start and a 2025 Blake Shapen win. He is going to be the new running back coach.
Why was that relevant?
I just felt like it deserved to be
Fair,
mentioned.
fair.
Blake Shapen deserves a shout here. He's going to be the new running back coach. Thomas Hammock is, not Blake Shapen, for the Seattle Seahawks. It's not his first NFL experience. He was the Ravens running back coach from 2014 to 2018. And now you may think like, oh, that means, he was the Ravens running back coach. There were probably some good running backs then. Dude, I went back and looked at the Ravens running backs in those 5 years. I don't remember a single one of their names.
What year is this?
2014 to 2018. That does not include Ray Rice. Of course, it's long before Derrick Henry.
Alex. One of them is Alex Collins.
Alex Collins. I think that was one of the names.
I
I
got you.
just didn't remember any of these names. So it's not necessarily that he's a household running back coach who creates household running back names. It's just kind of a hot story because of his tenure at Northern Illinois, including a win over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and Marcus Freeman, who, of course, notably declined an invite to the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Never forgiving him for that.
Outside of that, there weren't a ton of coaching changes for Seattle, which is a little bit surprising for a team that, won the Super Bowl. They lose a big one in Clint Kubiak, of course, but not a ton of changes in-house. Mike McDonald was really, really stingy, I think is the word, in terms of letting coaches go to Las Vegas with Kubiak. If I'm not mistaken, Kubiak only took 2 guys on staff with him to Las Vegas. So this is a Seattle team that will return a ton of their players and their coaching staff into next year. For the draft, Seattle, with winning the Super Bowl, gets the honor of being the last pick of the first round because they also hold their first-round pick. With that 32nd pick, you can pick a pick of need, but this is something I talked about near the top of the show with the New England Patriots is you want to pick a guy who is going to be a starter for you going forward, not that he's going to be a splash player. And the guys I mentioned were Greg Rousseau, who was the 30th overall pick for the Buffalo Bills. He's been a consistent starter. He's the best edge rusher for them. Malachi Starks last year comes to mind, 27th overall to the Baltimore Ravens, had an excellent season for Baltimore this past year. Then George Karlaftis, another AFC edge rusher of the Kansas City Chiefs, 30th overall pick. He just signed an extension where he's going to get paid $20 million per year going forward. But those picks aren't guaranteed. And if you go back even just the past 5 years, it's really, by my estimation, a 1 out of 7 to a 1 out of 6 chance for one of these late first-round picks to be hit. To be a hit and to be a consistent starter for your team, you are way more often going to find picks like Peyton Turner, sadly, New Orleans Saints draft pick. N'Keal Harry, you remember the first-round pick for the Patriots at wide receiver. Jeff Gladney, has anyone heard of that name before? Joe Tyron Shoyinka, the edge rusher for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Lewis Seen. So it's a guessing game, and one thing I will say with Seattle is they have done a really good job at hitting on some of these later picks. JSN was a guy who fell in the draft, of course. Devon Witherspoon was a really high pick, but you have guys like Tariq Woolen. Gray Zabel was a later pick for them last year. Charles Cross was a top pick for them, but this is a team that hit on 2 big ones this past year. Nick Emanwori was a huge one for them, and he was a Pro Bowler. He was one of the best slot corners in the league. And then I personally thought Elijah Arroyo, had he not got hurt as much, would have had a more of a pop this year for them, and I do expect him to be some kind of piece for them moving forward. So they have found success in these late picks in the first round or early picks in the second round. So I'm not too scared for them. I will say I wonder where they'll go with this pick, and I wonder where you guys think they should go. I have kind of a theory. I can give it right now real quick. If you let K9 walk, which I think it's a little, but I think it's 50-50, which I say that kind of jokingly because it's a new phrase I'm using where you either do or you don't. So everything's 50-50. But it really does feel like it's 50-50 in terms of Kenneth Walker is coming back or not.
That's like my favorite. That's my dad's favorite thing to say, or at least it was when I was growing up. Or
Okay.
maybe it was my
It's
mom.
a new thing for me right now.
Oh, okay, well. What? No, guys, it's not even midnight yet. It's not even midnight. We cannot lose our crap like we did.
I was going to say Jadarian Price.
Yeah.
Would you feel like maybe drafting him in the
from
first
Notre Dame.
round? Or this is a spot where you trade?
I don't like him I don't like him in the first round.
Yeah, I think you try and trade out of it.
Unless he tests fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just because he was behind Jeremiah Love for his entire collegiate career, we just haven't seen that much of him. I do get that he's running back 2 in this class. I just hope that we learn more about how narrow that gap is between him and Love. Is it like Love is just like a generational talent and Jadarian Price is like almost that, but he was behind a great running back? Or is it like Jeremiah Love is really good and Price is like just not as like where do they fall? That's what I think I want to know more.
Sure.
Because he was good when he did play, but
He was
he's
great.
behind Love.
He was great. I think they're definitely gonna take running back. I think Price in the first round is a little rich, at least for me currently.
I
want to say I did see a report though that Kenneth Walker, they're just likely to let him walk.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
I mean,
it's in his name, so.
Yes, correct. Kenneth Walker will be walking to the Saints.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a long walk for him, I will say.
Yeah.
I don't think that they, given the way they've so successfully constructed this roster, I don't think they're going to hamstring themselves. Is that the phrase? Hamstring, right?
I mean, potentially hamstring themselves.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to.
Because, I mean, if he just ends up being an electric running
It's
back.
something to do with strength.
Congrats.
I will say, like I mentioned, something they're trying to avoid is what happened the last time they won the Super Bowl. Then they returned. One of the things that they did following that Super Bowl was they went and paid like everybody. Like everybody got paid. Malcolm Smith, the Super Bowl MVP, got paid. Obviously, all the defenders got paid. Russell Wilson got paid a big money. They paid almost everyone that ended up being a free agent and just said, all right, come back. Let's run it back. Let's run it back. It feels like, and I can go ahead and tell you, Seattle radio and media, they don't want to go into that same hole again of paying everybody, especially when they're in a spot where it would probably shock you for me to tell you this, but they have $61 million in cap space. This offseason.
They're just Jay chilling.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for New England. New England's $41 million.
Yeah.
It shocks you that this team has this kind of cap space. So they're in a spot where they don't have to hamstring themselves, if that's the phrase. It's something to do with strings. I can't remember off the top of my head. So Kenneth Walker walking, I think, makes a ton of sense for them to potentially do something like that, and then target other priorities, especially a big one that's going to be a conversation is JSN and Devin Witherspoon will both be, they have the opportunity to get an extension this coming season. And I imagine Seattle will exercise that option very quickly as their two perennial pieces at receiver and corner. The cornerstones, one might say, of their franchise.
Yeah. It is also midnight, so any lack of knowing words is excused, in my opinion. I think that if they're going to pay anybody, it's not going to be Kenneth Walker. Positional value doesn't dictate that. I think that Reek Woolen and Kobe Bryant are two guys I could see them paying. Help me out here. Why is Josh Jobe listed on the depth chart ahead of Reek Woolen? Or Josh Jobe? Did he play ahead of him?
At one point, he did start over Tariq Woolen.
Okay.
In fact, like Woolen was kind of sidelined for 2 to 3 games, and it was Josh Jobe
Yeah, not
who
Joby.
started in front of him. And like one of the games Job started over Tariq was the Commanders game, and it was kind of a debate, but Woolen ended up getting the job back.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it's continued to list it that way, but
Also, just real quick, 2022 draft class, and these are the guys that, except for Cross, who already signed his extension, are free agents. Charles Cross, Boye Mafe, Kenneth Walker, Abraham Lucas. I think 3 of those guys are listed as starters, and then Boye Mafe is currently a linebacker, a backup linebacker. Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen, and then I think those are the only guys. Like, so that's what, 6 or maybe one more than 6 guys that they hit on
What a draft.
in one draft. That's just ridiculous. But it puts you in that tough situation where it's like it kind of sucks. Like, you're suffering from success, right? Your steak is too juicy, your lobster's too buttery.
I mean, I guess.
Where every single guy that you hit on comes due for an extension at the exact same time. That's the reality. Is that like it sucks? Like it's almost better to hit on like 2 guys a draft because
No, because then you go win the Super Bowl with these guys. And
that
then you
is
can move
true.
on.
But I'm talking about like but you move on, and so now where do you go? Like,
You decide which ones to keep, and then you just draft the replacements and do it again.
yep, you just hit on the next guys. That's a
Yep.
good plan. That is like, I'm not being serious. I'm just saying that like this is something
I get
that
what you mean. I'm
that
just giving you a hard
Seahawks
time.
fans, it's going to kind of suck for Seahawks fans because there's going to be some guys that you loved, right? It's like, oh, but we drafted Abraham Lucas, and well, you're not letting him go, I don't think. But okay, we drafted Kobe Bryant in the 5th round, or is it the 5th round?
Yep.
Like, I don't want to let him go. Like, I'm not ready to move on. That might be 4th round. I can't
it
tell.
was 4th round.
Yeah.
But he kind of already has the replacement in Eman Wari with
Yeah.
this past draft class.
So it's just like that there's going to be like tough decisions for the Seahawks management, and then also just for the Seahawks fan base, because like that's a cool fan base. So that like it does suck when you invest in a guy and it works out that like you don't get to keep him.
Yeah,
I guess.
sure.
The way it sounds right now, and a lot of those free agents you already listed, that includes, so it's Kenneth Walker, Tariq Woolen, Boye Mafe, Kobe Bryant. That also includes Drake Thomas, who is the unsung hero, and then Rashid Shaheed, who you traded for this year, was a 1-year rental. It hit, obviously, and it was more than worth it, but he'll be a free agent as well. So there's a ton of decisions to be made, but what it feels like right now is it almost feels like they're bringing none of them back at this point. It sounds like Kenneth Walker is going to walk, pun intended. Tariq Woolen, the way he's posting on social media and the way it sounds in Seattle as well, is that he will not be returning, and I don't blame them. He'll turn 27 before next season even starts. He turns 27 in May. So he'll have, theoretically he'll has 4 years of prime left, and you already have a corner you're going to pay in Devon Witherspoon pretty much guaranteed. Don't want to pay 2 corners big money.
Hey, come to Washington. Come to not the state of Washington.
Is that
but-
the third? Is the third or the fourth?
Hey,
guy
we got
in
money.
the other
We
Washington?
got money, man.
This is true.
That's all I'm saying. It's all gone at this point, but we got room for him. We're releasing Marshawn Lattimore. You can take his spot.
One of the guys that Seattle radio really wants to return is Boye Mafe,
Yeah.
which statistically doesn't make sense if you were just a box score watch, but they do feel like, and I feel like I agree with them, the impact he can make as an edge rusher as part of an entire crew of guys. They had an 8-man crew really with Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy at those 2 guys at defensive tackle. Then you have Nwosu and DeMarcus Lawrence and Boye Mafe. They had a really deep crew, and they want to be able to keep that kind of crew together. And so while Mafe didn't have an elite statistical season, he is someone that they have at the top of their list in terms of bringing back. For needs, they're going to have a need at running back if they let Kenneth Walker walk because Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL in the division round against the 49ers. So is he going to be ready for week 1? Almost certainly no. Is he going to be ready midway through the season? I don't know. It's up for debate. Running backs tearing their ACL is like it's never a guarantee that the next year they return to some kind of form. You can see something like Breece Hall the year after he tore his ACL did not have a great year. Then he finally returned. But I think it'll be up in the air. With the money they have, the kind of theory right now is do they just get a guy of K9's caliber who can do something that, Zach Charbonnet can't? And Zach Charbonnet was used more so kind of like a power back, and much to the dismay of K9 fantasy owners, he was their goal line back this year. Why not, go after some kind of like pass catching back? Kenneth Walker was good in the screen game, but who isn't good in catching a fluffy, bunny ball thrown right to you on a screen?
Yeah.
It's more so like actually being a receiving back. And so guys like Travis Etienne, or I really like Kenneth Gainwell is a free agent, and Rashad White, the backup running back for Tampa Bay, is a free agent. You also have guys who can be bell cows, and Javonte Williams and Rico Dowdle. So you can replace K9 with a guy of similar caliber, and you probably don't have to pay as much money for these guys because they aren't Super Bowl MVPs like Kenneth Walker is. This is also a team that is quietly being linked to trading for Max Crosby, which would be really, really interesting.
That would
The
be
rich get
considering
richer.
that defense.
Yeah.
Because they do have the money to pay for a Max Crosby contract. They obviously wouldn't have to pay for much of this following years with all of the signing bonus, but they would have the money to be able to have him on the books the next few years. It makes sense because it's AFC to NFC. He also doesn't have to move very far, Las Vegas to Seattle. Gets to stay on the West Coast, albeit West Coast is a little bit different between Seattle and Las Vegas. So this is a team that is quietly linked to Max Crosby. Receiver is also like, who's going to be your wide receiver 3 is such an interesting
I
question.
think you should draft like Omar Cooper, Elijah Surratt.
Yeah,
That
just,
makes
go for
26 teams,
the
I think,
clean
that we-
sweep. I think that's every single one.
Yeah, I don't think. Honestly, though, is there a team that if they had the chance to draft them, shouldn't draft them? Probably not.
Probably not with the way they played this year. We'll see if that's just the force multiplying of Fernando Mendoza or the talent that they are, or Kurt Signetti.
Yeah.
The jury is still out on all that. But who's going to be wide receiver 3? I'll be point blank honest. I would be surprised if Rashid Shaheed returns for them with the money that they have committed to JSN and Cooper. Well, Jason in the future, but Cooper Kupp already. I don't think paying Rashid Shaheed because of what he adds in the return game. He's more expensive than just your normal speed threat receiver.
We got Torrey Horton. I'm big on Torrey Horton.
Yeah.
Let him fill that role.
Yeah.
So maybe they draft a receiver to keep cheaper, especially when JSN's going to get the big contract extension. I think maybe that's a way they could potentially go. So I see Rashid Shaheed walking. Future New Orleans Saint Rashid Shaheed, also former New Orleans Saint Rashid Shaheed. Anywhere y'all would like to see them go, though, in free agency? Because, this is a team, I'll be honest, didn't have a ton of holes this year. And that's, in large part, the reason they won the Super Bowl. And that seems to be the running theme with these NFC teams is it's the best rosters rather than the best quarterback that wins the day. And they had the best roster in the NFC and point blank in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
I think you summed it up really well. You're going to need to get a running back in. One, because you're probably just letting Kenneth Walker go, but the Charbonnet piece of him, he's not going to be healthy. So you probably draft a running back and sign a running back. Sign a running back is kind of where I'm at. You go value on one of those two things. You don't draft a running back in the second round and pay up in free agency for a running back, right? And then it's really hard to see where they go from there, but they're going to make the right decisions. I have faith. Maybe some defensive line depth. It's a great group already, but it's just kind of, I feel like you can't have too much there. They're really trying to trade for Max Crosby, so they don't necessarily disagree with me, I guess. But that's not depth. That's splash. But
yeah, in free agency, I would focus more. I wish they could bring back Tariq Woolen. That's what I would love to see them do. Mm-hmm. You've made it sound like you don't expect them to, and maybe we'll see how that plays out. If they don't, one guy sitting right now just outside the first round of mock drafts is Brandon Cisse from South Carolina. He's a cornerback I like a lot, so maybe they bring him in to play across from Witherspoon.
Another South Carolina guy to go with Eman Mori.
Yep, exactly. And then running back, you might be able to get Williams, Anais Williams, the backup Notre Dame running back, in the second round.
Jadarian Price.
Jadarian Price, thank you. Anais Williams is
Was
the third string who I have in college fantasy. and will be a dog this year, hopefully. But
Makai Hughes.
Jadarian
2.0.
Price, no, Jadarian Price, you might be able to get in the second round, or I would love a Nick Singleton in like the third or fourth round. I think that one of those Penn State running backs could be a really cheap option at running back, and I think that with this offensive line, I'm a big believer in the fact that offensive line creates run game
Yeah, you're the biggest running back hater I've ever seen.
far
actually.
more
That's crazy.
effectively than running back does. And so I think if you put a good running back behind this offensive line and they play well, like you could have a really, really good run game. And it's just helped out by the fact that you have JSN and Cooper Kupp at wide receiver, so you're not going to see loaded boxes. It's a kind of a situation made in heaven for a running back to walk into. It's a great, and this whole roster is a great situation for anyone who might want to join, which makes it easier to get a Max Crosby or other discounted free agents. So that's what I'd say is work on retention. Bring back those guys. Bring back Drake Thomas and the shout out you gave him earlier. Bring back Tariq Woolen, or if not, go draft a guy. You go to DBU and get a safety. Go to Toledo, right? DBU. They already put the Eagles cornerback, whose name I've already just drawn a blank. Quinyon Mitchell. They
There
put
you go.
Quinyon
Yep.
Mitchell in the league. DBU. So they've got a safety who's like a top 50 prospect. So yeah, that's the approach I would take.
Convince Kelly Jones to come out a year early. The
Just do a
actual
little
the actual
tampering.
DBU.
Yeah.
Mississippi
Yeah,
State
sure.
University.
Okay.
Yeah, Emmanuel Forbes agrees with that take.
Martin Emerson.
Yeah. Cam Dantzler.
Darius.
Jonathan
Slay,
Abrams.
Jonathan Abrams.
DeCamerion Richardson. Even though he was technically a Rebel for like 2 minutes.
Diego Bumfield.
He says state whenever he says his name on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, that's...
Anything else on the Seahawks? Goals. 2026 goals.
Yeah, goals for next year is to...
Win the Super Bowl.
No, I think it's to try and win the division again. It was an unbelievably competitive division this year. And that, sadly, was not the truth for the Arizona Cardinals. But for the Niners and the Rams, Seattle and San Francisco literally played for the 1 seed in the final week of the year. The Rams were, you could argue, a couple plays away.
Sure.
Maybe just 1 play away in any, really, realistically, the 2 Seattle games in Seattle. You just change 1 play, and that probably it's them that's playing in the Super Bowl, and it's a lot of people would argue it's them that won the Super Bowl. So I think you expect, obviously, the Rams to be good once again with Stafford returning. And then the 49ers, you think, injury health will be a little bit better next year. And they will, they were already playing for the 1 seed in their own building this year. So I think win the division is the realistic goal because it showed in the 2 playoff games they played this year. Their roster was great, don't get me wrong. But having the 12th man, whether that's the actual 12th man or not, it's up for debate. But having that was a tremendous advantage. It was a tremendous advantage in the Niners game. It with Sheed returning the opening kick, the crowd was in it, and it just completely took all
I
the
think
juice.
the real answer is how many home playoff games did y'all win this year?
That doesn't matter. We came up with it first.
All I'm saying is how many home playoff games did the Seahawks win, JP?
They won 2.
This is crazy. You're
I
coming
don't
for my
subscribe
team.
to that, but I do like. That's a funny.
Congrats on
question.
losing the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I'm happy your QB's knee's still intact.
That's wild. We didn't claim to be the Duke's Mayo champions. Y'all just said you're the 12th man, and yet y'all lost your home playoff game.
Okay, cool. I wish Sam Darnold's my quarterback. I wish I had Jason on my team. Nick Amon-Mori, he seems pretty
Who's
cool.
better, Marcel Reed or Sam Darnold?
Sam Darnold.
Okay.
All right,
I
cool.
love Marcel Reed, but that's just not a question.
All right, is that it?
No, unless y'all disagree with that take.
No, I think
I'm
that's
fine
fair.
with that. It's
The
so
division
hard
is
to
gonna be
give the
tough.
goal to the team that just won the Super
Yeah.
Bowl. So
The
I'm fine with
Rams
that.
are going to be right back in it. They're going to bring back Stafford. They're going to bring back Nakua. They're going to have a wide receiver. They're going to have Taylor Green sitting on the bench, learning, developing.
I can't wait. If he gets drafted by then, we're getting a Taylor Green jersey. I don't care if it's in the 7th round.
Yeah, facts. I am. I'm so excited. Anyway, it's going to be. They're going to be very good. The 49ers are going to be interesting because they're going to be returning a lot of guys back from injury, but they're just going to be
They unks.
just because they don't have right.
But they
George
get her
Kittle,
done.
yeah, George Kittle probably won't be back this season, right? Achilles, and so
Who knows?
Who knows? But it's just going to be the 49ers are going to be. I feel like a lot less predictable than the Rams. I think are the Rams who's favorites right now? Is it the Rams?
It's probably the Seahawks.
It's probably Seattle just by a slight edge.
Yeah. But it is going to be a very competitive division. I think that winning it is
the Cardinals
a very
will be a part of the division.
True.
They will play 6 divisional
They will
games
play
next
6
year.
divisional
I can guarantee
games.
that.
Yep.
Will they give out 6 divisional wins to their divisional foes? Do you think they get 1 maybe?
They don't play well against their own
No,
division
they don't.
at all. So I don't think they give
Okay. Cool.
a loss to any of their divisional opponents.
All right. Well, I think it's a fair goal then.
Cool.
Well, that'll do it for
We're-
our off-season
Yeah.
primers.
We're almost 3 hours in.
Whoever
This is
said a
diabolical
light
from us.
2-hour show.
Well,
Jack,
we went way longer, which is totally fine, on the Giants somehow, and then
It's
also
'cause they had a lot to
the
talk
two
about.
Super Bowl teams, which they deserve it.
yeah.
But it's crazy from us. We can leave. Y'all
Y'all
can
did
go
like
get
an
some-
hour 45 show
Yeah, we blitzed it.
Tuesday.
There's just one less person to talk. It's always gonna go faster.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get out of here so y'all two can go get some sleep, so I can go listen to the new Baby Keem album.
Ooh, facts.
Cannot wait.
Enjoy.
I heard from Chromie. My mind is a little blown. I've seen only good things on Twitter.
How do you
I'm
listen to new
excited.
albums? What's your go-to
Yeah, we're
method?
3 hours in. Let's have a little chat.
I'm curious. Because
So-
I have a method.
For an album like this, we'll see, because I may get trumped on this. But ideally, I get home, get on my laptop, put on my gaming headset, and listen, because it's the best sound quality I have available.
Yeah.
If it's just an album for example, the new J. Cole album dropped a couple weeks ago. Like, I want to listen to that. But it's one is an hour 40 long, which is a different conversation.
diabolical.
It's diabolical. Baby Keem's is only 35 minutes, nice
Okay.
and concise.
You can get that in before bed.
I am probably just tossing on my AirPods. Maybe if I'm doing something on my computer, I'll have my headphones on, and just like kind of passively listening through once, and I'll catch some high points, but then I'll have to like really spin it again to like really see what I'm getting. But now I'm like this, I'm either headphones on or I'm getting in the car and going on a drive and listening. Those are my two.
You're listening it front to back. Listen,
Yep,
first
start to
song to
finish.
last song. Yeah.
Is there another option?
Well, I some people like
For example,
will listen to the singles maybe, and then go from there. Like or just not listen to the singles because they've already heard them and
Yeah.
just listen to the new
I
songs.
feel like if it's an album, you got to listen to it in order.
I mean,
Because
that's
albums
agree.
are assembled. Like,
It's-
albums are put together to go in a specific way. Now, here's what I'll say this. It bothers me. Playlists are one thing, right? And you can have multiple songs. Like, oh, yeah, I got 2 or 3 songs from this album. Put on the playlist, 2 or 3 songs. Shuffle. That's fine. People who will go to an album and then shuffle it, that is ridiculous.
I mean, I think we're all on the same page here. It's a legitimate question because there are
Yeah,
crazies
yeah,
out here.
yeah.
And then even some people like tonight, everyone knows Kendrick is on the 4th song on the album, right?
Yeah.
So you're listening right when it drops. You want to be the guy that's like, yo, this new Kendrick song is so good. Kendrick Baby Keem snapped again. Maybe even post a lyric from it or something. You would want
Yeah.
to be first.
Post
and
an
then you're not-
Instagram story. you
Yeah,
know.
correct. Like, that's what it is. But I'm a pretty big proponent of like getting my headphones on typically.
Yeah.
You just
same.
like, especially in rap, like you just really miss stuff. Like my AirPods, I'll listen to an album 4 or 5 times on my AirPods, and then I like finally listen to it while like playing video games or something, and I'm like, holy crap! Like I completely missed this like layer to this song or like this little drum beat in the background. I like just didn't hear it at all.
I'll
listening on
notice the
AirPods.
same thing with like high quality headphones, and then I'll listen to it like in my car, and for some reason the audio will be a little different. Like, oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's
Yeah.
it's really cool at the same time. It is cool to listen in different environments, but it's been 5 years. I cannot wait. I'm stoked.
That's
Why I
so
said
long.
I may get overruled is if Lucy wants to listen,
Yeah.
then like we'll probably just listen
Y'all,
in the car
you
on the
can
way
borrow
home
my gaming headset, and y'all can both wear your.
at the same time. No, we could just listen on the car ride home if you want to do that, and then I'll just listen to it again right after when we get home. So cool. Well, thanks everyone who tuned in. And we'll be
Yeah.
back for you on Monday, not Tuesday. We'll
Yeah.
update the graphic at some
I will
point.
update that going
Mock
forward.
Draft Monday. is
Mock
what
Draft
it's-
Monday.
It's been named now.
Yeah, and we'll get some bad takes out there.
Yeah, whoever came up with that, I think I came up with that, so I should get
think
a
you did.
raise.
I feel like
Okay.
definitely.
That was
I believe Bingle on YouTube does Mock Draft Monday.
Yeah.
So he's already coined that.
no. I
So.
mean, if we can't have Mock Draft Monday, you can't have 12th Man. So
All right.
Is there
Cool.
a chicken theme that we could add to mock draft?
We'll have to think on that. We really will.
So we got the pecking order.
I feel like there's a bird-related thing that starts with mongoose. Is that like a type of chicken?
No.
I think that's just a type of bird.
Do they eat?
No, mongoose is not a bird.
They-
Mongoose fight
they
the
eat
cobras.
chickens. They eat. Oh, they eat cobras, not
Yeah,
chickens.
they go after the cobra eggs, which they're sick. They're fire animals. To have the reaction time to fight a cobra and win, that's insane.
It's not a bird.
I mean, the only bird I think like mockingbird.
A mongoose isn't a bird though.
No, I'm
okay.
I'm definitely wrong. Like as soon
I
as
always
you.
thought it was it could fly.
No,
I don't
think
know what
so.
it looks like at least.
It kind of looks like a weasel. It's pretty close to a
Okay.
weasel, I
Yeah.
think. You ever read like Rikki Tikki Tavi
No.
back in school? Did you?
I'm in a flow state right now. I could sit here for another hour and just say nothing.
Okay,
but
so you didn't read
crap.
that. Growing
No,
up.
I didn't read.
I
Ricky
feel like it's an
Tikki
iconic short story.
Nope.
If people actually were listening at
I
this
read
point,
Goodnight
they'd
Moon.
back me up.
I read Goodnight
Well,
Moon.
no, this is like you read it in school, and it's like this great work of
Nope.
literature, but it's short, and maybe you write like a little summary essay of it.
Homeschooled.
No,
That's
that's
part of
probably
it.
part of it. But like I know people that legitimately know this story. Lucy would back me up. I'll
Oh.
ask her when we leave.
But you would say it's like
I'll look up a picture of a
one
mongoose.
of
for
one
you.
of the short stories of all time.
Yes.
Oh wow, that's kind of surprising.
Rikki Tikki Tavi. Is that what you called it? Rikki Tikki Tavi?
It's a classic short story by Rudyard Kipling,
Interesting.
originally published in the Jungle Book. About a brave
Oh.
young mongoose who protects a British family in India from two deadly king cobras.
Interesting. Never heard of it.
Do we think did J.K. Rowling rip this off? Because the cobras' names are Nag and Nagana. It's like Nagini. Like, did she just steal? Did she get
Maybe.
some inspiration there?
Is that what the snakes and
It's Nagini, right?
Nagini in
And-
Harry Potter is the
and that
snake,
was-
and this is
Okay.
Nag and Nagana or something like that.
I don't know.
I don't know. Cool.
Maybe. Wouldn't surprise me. She ripped off Star Wars. So
Is it appropriate for kids? Is there a movie? No. Okay, hold on. I'm getting sidetracked. I'm just trying to pull a picture of a cobra for you, or no, a mongoose.
I know what a- I know
what a
what-
mongoose looks like. Okay.
Well, here's animated Rikki Tikki Tavi for you.
Yeah, I've never seen that in my life.
yeah, never. You just made that up. He does.
But
look
it's
like a
popular
weasel.
enough. There's like Walt Disney made an animation of it.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
like, I'm not like this is not crazy niche.
When's the remake? The live action remake.
2 years?
Yeah.
I'm playing Rikki Tikki Tavi. They already got my costume ready.
It's just you in a fur coat.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
But no, yeah, Mockingbird's the only thing I think of for mock draft, and birds.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah.
chicken themed.
That is not chicken
So,
themed.
We'll think on it. Y'all can think on it. Let us know on Monday. We hope to see
No
y'all
one
there.
is still listening. We are
Peace.
3 hours
Peace.
in.
Peace. Peace.
See ya.